What is happening, folks? Good morning, and welcome to the ASTROLABE. Brought to you by King Pilled on this bright and beautiful and slightly cooler Monday morning. At least it's slightly cooler here, and that's all that matters. I gotta say, before I forget, at the very beginning, I'm gonna say this now. I'll probably mention it in the middle if I remember, and I'll mention it at the end. Tonight, 6 p.m., I will be on 2-Bit Podcast with Pete Quinones. We'll be doing a recap of the we're doing a redux of Peter Thiel, Friend or Fed. And we will be recapping the Peter Thiel on Joe Rogan conversation. If you listen to the OGC stream, most recent one, Pony Express Radio, I believe is what it's called. I just know it as OGC stream on YouTube. If you listen to them, they gave a pretty good recap of it. Charlemagne in particular, really enjoyed some of the stuff he had to say about it. I'll be echoing some similar sentiments. But yeah, so I know some of you guys were wanting to know when that was going to happen. It will happen tonight, 6 p.m. Eastern, on the 2-Bit Podcast channel. I was thinking here as I was getting ready to come on the stream, I've got a whole bunch of stuff, a whole ton of RFK content. That stuff, there's a absolute treasure trove of things to talk about within the RFK subject. We're going to talk about the Telegram founder, elite defection. What was the other thing? I wondered if putting the G word in the title is going to affect the distribution of it at all. It may be monetized immediately from the jump just because that word is there. I've heard of such things happening. But Elon Musk talking about the gun emoji. Seems like kind of a funny thing, but it actually, I think, is quite indicative of bigger things. But I was sitting here thinking about this elite defection thing, and some of this. I had a couple of tweets that got out of containment and wound up in the I don't know. It's like the doomers. They don't see themselves as normies at all, but to me, they kind of occupy the same space where I'm just like, just you guys are all here talking about gay stuff, and just do your gay conversations over there. And a couple of my tweets broke containment, and I got some of them in my mentions. And I was thinking about just all the different complaints that I hear from them. And it's all some variant of libertarianism. It's the same. These guys, these elites, they're not our guy because this reason or that reason, and so they're bad. And this, obviously the thing with RFK, he's a Democrat. Oh, look at all this bad stuff he's done. Okay, so right now there's within the political spectrum, there are two broad categories of people who are talking about the Trump RFK thing as if it's a bad thing. The regime press and the doomers. Remind me why they think they're separate. They're not. Why the doomers see themselves as distinct from the press? Well, how do they possibly get that notion? They occupy they're like perfectly hand in glove. This is what forms the narrative, pushes the narrative forward. The regime press posts some blackpilling thing. The doomers grab onto it and spurg out and flail around and shit and piss all over. And the rest of us are just subjected to this. I just saw before I went live here, this is what kind of kicked this thought off for me. Naval Ravikant, who 100% for a whole bunch of different reasons would not be acceptable to the doomer. The doomer would say, oh, he's Indian, or oh, he's not Christian, or oh, he's not a native-born American, or whatever reason. Oh, he's rich, and look at this company he invested in, or whatever. He tweeted the right to vote, or the true right to vote is owning a firearm. So, this is the type of rhetoric that many of these different people are happy to traffic in. And you could say, oh, they're just saying that's you'll like them. They're just trying to pander to you. Okay, first of all, why would they want to pander to me? Why am I someone that's worthy of being pandered to? And secondly, of what great value is pandering to me such that they would engage in veiled threats toward the regime tweeting? Whether or not these guys are 100% check off the list, every single thing on the list that you would want your based elite to look like, they're at the very least very sympathetic to our worldview, very sympathetic to, they want to move in our direction. And it's watching the trajectory of this over the last few years, and I understand that a lot of these doomers are they just kind of come up with takes as time goes on. They're not really tracking anything that's happening. They're not engaged with reality. They just know they have this easy algorithm that story comes out and it's very easy to find the doomer take and default to it. And so then you can always have an opinion and you never have to be beholden to anything. And you get to feel very morally superior and you just doom away. So I understand that maybe I need to have a little grace that these guys haven't been following the trajectory for a while here. I tweeted something when JD Vance was picked that some dude who voted for Bernie in 2016 is tweeting about how, oh, JD Vance called Trump a Nazi in 2015. The sky is falling. Dude, you were voting for Bernie. You were probably voting for Bernie in 2020. But strange, it turns out that over the last several years, a lot of people have changed for a lot of very obvious reasons. These are the types of events that cause people to change. But even if they're not, even if it's entirely cynical, even if it's entirely just a ploy, they're just craven power seekers. This is how patronage works. The elite says, hello there, commoner. I will pretend to care about this thing you care about in return for you giving me support and respect, recognizing me as your sovereign. That is what patronage is. You, as a commoner, as a pleb, have an obligation to accept that offer of patronage when it's extended to you, and to pay them the respect that is due them being a more valuable person in society than you are. That's the fundamental thing that really drives the doomers, is subconsciously recognizing that having to bend the knee to someone like this, metaphorically speaking, having to say, yes, this person is better than me, that chafes at their liberal sensibilities. They don't want to recognize that there are some people who are just better than others. They're more valuable. They contribute more to society. They have more power, more wealth, more influence precisely because of that. They're better than you. They're better than you, and yet they're not as enlightened as you are. Oh, they still see democracy as a good thing. Oh, what a fucking rube. I can't believe he's so wealthy and powerful, and he doesn't even understand that democracy is fake and gay. He's posting memes about democracy being fake and gay, but he doesn't really understand it. He's not as elevated and based as me. As I'm driving to my job at the car wash. This is what patronage networks look like. We have been dying for a lack of them. I'm not going to demand that some potential elite class that wants to reach out, that wants to cater to me, that wants to pander to me. I'm not just going to slap that away and spit at them for, oh, you're wrong on that. Your job is not to like badger them into changing their mind about every last aspect of their worldview. They're already in the act of doing that. They're following the same trajectory that a lot of us have. And again, I recognize a lot of you guys, the doomers aren't keeping up with this. They're not paying attention to anything like this. They just have their knee-jerk takes that they default to that are very easy. It's very predictable. You always know exactly what it's going to be. None of it's ever creative. None of it's ever original or insightful. It's basically just echoing the sentiment of the regime press, but just taking the opposite positions on everything. But many of us have changed significantly over the past 4 to 8 years for obvious reasons. Big things happened 4 years ago, and big things happened 8 years ago. And big things have been happening more and more and more. Many big things. The frickin' president, they took a shot at the president, effectively the president, winged his head, and it disappeared from the news in 2 weeks. You say, oh, that's because they flushed the story. They got rid of the story. Yeah, people didn't care if they got rid of it. Because this is the reality of the news cycle right now. Like, yeah, there was people who wanted to kill it, but it was going to get killed. That story wasn't going to persist at the very top of all the stories because no story ever does anymore. There are categories of stories, and that one fits into a category of stories, which is Trump versus the regime, which is still the thing that's the top story because it's been the top story nonstop for the last 8 years. But the story, it was never going to actually stay there for 6 months or whatever, just because that's the world that we live in right now. We don't have a 24-hour news cycle. We have like a 24-minute news cycle. And crazy new things keep happening. Some of this is because the nature of the internet and especially Twitter, allowing for the instant breaking of news. Something can instantly go viral. That's a big part of it. Will says, Matt, are you deliberately trying to mask your appearance, or is this just a temporary dark MAGA aesthetic? Well, it's a dark MAGA aesthetic. I don't know how temporary it is. It's kind of fun. It's not like you can't find my face if you want to. You could go look at the 90% of videos on the channel and you can see my face clearly. I just think it's funny because people said when I did it the other day, just as a joke, people said I looked like some people said I looked like the fucker right in the pussy guy, and some people said that I look like Uncle Ted. And I was like, oh, I like striking the balance of that one there. Anyways, I don't remember exactly what I was ranting about. Appreciate you, JFB48. I came to like the stream and I'm out. Appreciate you liking it. Hit the like button if you're watching right now. We got 74 viewers and 26 likes. So yeah, we have patronage networks being built they're very happy for us to participate in those networks. This is the way that a one castle takes a rival castle, by seeking to subvert and draw away the base of support. So how do you do that? Well, there's a base of support that's available. They want someone to advocate for them. Why don't we advocate for them? And it just so happens that by advocating for their interests, in this case, by the counter-regime Democrats, you might say, or the counter-regime libs, particularly those among Silicon Valley, and then extending out and increasingly into the Tulsi Gabbard, RFK, Jimmy Dore. We're going to hear from Jimmy Dore today. Increasingly, they're moving This coalition is extending to include those types of people because they recognize that their own personal interests are suited by trying to create the world that we want to live in. We meaning us, you and you guys and me. The world we want to live in would be very beneficial to them. And it's a way of moving into the space that the regime isn't occupying so that you can take power from the regime. Multiple things are happening at the same time at different layers. Some of it is calculated. Some of it's just instinctual. This is like this is herd behavior within human beings. And in fact, I'm going to save some of the rest of these thoughts for later on, because I've got after we go through the RFK stuff and some of these other stories I've got some more things directly related to this. I was getting a little ahead of myself. Let's dive in. My wife has contributed a clip for the morning, and this is a good one. If you've ever backed up a trailer, you'll appreciate this.
In reverse.
One lap in reverse.
Oh my God! James Jackknife! JH is struggling! I knew my driver had it! These guys literally... Oh my gosh, dude! Oh my gosh, my stomach hurts already. Look at the lead. We got a one. Oh my gosh! What in the world is he doing? Ty lost his trailer. Literally lost his trailer. These two haven't even made it to turn 1. Cleat coming around turn 4.
Slow and steady.
Oh my goodness! Ty's got his trailer chained up. That's working really good. He's about to pass JH.
I mean, he is backing up.
He's backing up.
I don't know why that would be illegal.
One lap in.
The European mind cannot comprehend this. This is pure distilled American culture. Likewise, so is this.
Well, I'm 3 white monsters deep, and I'm shaking like a leaf. I got a honey bun in 1911, and I ain't never felt more free. It's a beautiful day at the Circle K. The European mind is ignorant and blind to the beauty of the USA at the Circle K.
You know, it's funny. Brody here in the chat says North Americana. And, you know, that's fair, actually. That's fair. That this is not a distinctly American thing. This is a, like, North American white people thing. I spend a lot of time with country people in Canada, and they are indistinguishable from American rednecks. American rural people and Canadian rural people are very, very similar, especially across the Midwest and the North. The culture is virtually identical. There's some of it's funny that Canadians have a reputation for being like soft or wimpy or kind of like pushovers or something, because some of the hardest people that I've ever met were Canadians, like raised out in the woods, you know, driving logging trucks and surviving minus 60-degree winters, hiking across vast expanses, completely remote, can just like, you know, spin up a little lean-to and start a fire and go catch some fish and some animals and like gut them and string them and like hang them up. Like guys who would very happily live off the land for months at a time. Some of the biggest badasses ever are Canadians. So shout out to the Canadians. We make fun of you guys, but every once in a while I got to let you know that I do appreciate you. But as an American, I'm obligated to make fun of you. This one had me just absolutely howling yesterday. Someone said, this is many people on this website, unfortunately, and it is too incredibly accurate. So POV, your coworker went to film school.
Dude, I saw Alien Romulus last night.
How was it?
Really good. Really, really good.
How's the mise en scène? How's the mise en scène?
What? How's the what?
The mise en scène. You don't know what that is. No, I had read a spec script, so I was wondering how it technically played out on the screen. I'm pretty interested in Something like that.
Yeah, it played out well.
Sure.
How was the alien design? I heard they did.
Dude, it was pretty good.
Liam's like, were there big explosions? Was there a big explosion at the end? Is there a post-credit scene? Meanwhile, you and I are trying to talk about the sound design and how it was influenced by the past Alien movies.
Yeah, I think you'd really like it, actually.
Does Deadpool and Wolverine come in for their cameo? Go watch Marvel movies. Pussy. Did you see it on 70mm?
Man, they captured that really, really well. The spitting I think that the spitting was ad-libbed. That looked like he was just kind of, maybe the whole thing was ad-lib, but the spitting part was, the other guys did not expect it. That was fantastic. Brilliant performance. That's me to the black pillars. I played this video for you guys the other day. I played part of it, but then the longer clip came across my timeline and I had to share it. So the last one was only like 15 seconds long or something like that. This is a full 2:14.
Satan would kill God if he could, but he can't. So he kills babies because he knows it wounds the heart of the Father and causes chaos on the earth. You see, abortion is actually the sacrament of Satan. Because abortion says you must die so I can live. But Christ says, no, I must die so you can live. And chooses to enter human history in a uterus of all locations to redeem mankind from their sins. This is why Peter Kraft, the Catholic philosopher, who's still alive today, spoke more prophetically on the issue of abortion than any Protestant I've ever heard. And he said, don't you know, church, abortion is the demonic parody of the Eucharist. That's why it uses the same holy, holy words. This is my body, but with the opposite blasphemous meaning.
Yeah.
Do you think it's a coincidence that the central phrase of the entire abortion industrial complex and the culture of death today are the same words of our Savior, this communion, this is my body? And because Planned Parenthood is not only the largest abortion provider in the world, they're the largest provider of transgender drugs. They call both of those mutilations health care. Did you know this? What do they call transgender surgeries? Gender affirming. What do they call abortion? Reproductive. Right. They call them both health care. And so if they can't get the babies in the womb, they'll get them outside the womb. They defend both practices using bodily autonomy arguments. This is my body.
Yep.
And if I want to kill what's inside of my body, then who cares? Because the serpent told me in Genesis 3, ye shall be as gods. Abortion is the sacrament of the religion of secular progressivism. So when Christ says, this is my body, I go break it for you now. Take and eat in remembrance of me. Guys, all human conflict is ultimately theological. It is not a coincidence that the argument for abortion is quoting the words of our Savior.
Whew. That is powerful. That's the whole thing right there. All right, I'm yanking you guys around today because I posted it in the Discord. Actually, I can do that. I just copied it here. I just posted a link in the chat, Ryan. Just scroll up just a little bit. I'll post it again. Easy enough. Okay. All right. Now that I hit you guys right in the soul, gonna hit you right in the soul in a different way.
To feel down, I said, young man, pick yourself off the ground. I said, young man, cause you're in a new town. There's no need to be unhappy, young man. There's a place you can go. I said, young man, when you're short on your dough, you can stay there. And I'm sure you will find many ways to feel down. I said, young man, pick yourself off off the ground. I said, young man, cause you're in a new town. There's no need to be unhappy, young man. There's a place you can go. I said, young man, when you're short on your dough, you can stay there, and I'm sure you will find me.
Oh man, I'm bummed that you can't see his legs, because it makes his whole, when you get the full body shot of him dancing with that move. I don't know why this is his signature move, this like robot arms sort of thing. Or I said it's, what did I say? When I got out of the shower and I'm drying the back of my neck, he's like doing this. He's like, you can imagine him holding a towel and drying the back of his neck. This is just like his signature move. But then he also does like this, he kind of shakes his ass and he like pops his knees out a little bit. It's an 80-year-old man standing on stage dancing is just like one of the best things you can ever see. The man is just filled with vitality. You can't fake that. You can't fake being an almost 80-year-old man and having as much fucking energy as this guy has. That's maybe you could have like an almost 80-year-old who is just absolutely profoundly evil and is driven entirely by the greatest evils, and that's what gives him all that energy. Maybe. But I'm inclined to say that alone is a sign of great character. If you're an 80-year-old man with a ton of vitality and energy, you can only get there through great character. So I'm going to keep you guys hyped here and set you up for basically what the next, I don't know, hour plus of the stream is going to be.
You're going to win so much, you may even get tired of winning. And you'll say, please, it's too much winning. We can't take it anymore. Mr. President, it's too much. And I'll say, no, it isn't. We have to keep winning. We have to win more. We're going to win more. We're going to win so much.
And of course, this in particular was posted about the news that Philip Morris is going to build a $600 million Zyn manufacturing plant in Aurora back in July. Very appropriate use of the clip. This clip, you could get so much traction out of it. CRX says, Trump never has to speak. Just give me hours of that dance with the pointing. Yes. Just come out on the stage. He should do an entire rally that is just like an hour of different music clips and him just dancing to a bunch of different songs. Just dancing and like clapping and pointing at people and stuff. And just set the clips up such that, you know, maybe one kind of starts to drag a little bit, but then it's the next one's a really great one. The crowd gets all excited when they hear it coming, and he just goes to the other side of the stage, and he's just dancing and pointing, clapping. He could do that for an hour, and it would probably be one of the most viewed clips of all time. He'd absolutely have the energy to do it. It doesn't take that much energy to just kind of stand here doing this. And he goes up and he speaks for his RNC convention speech was like almost an hour and 40 minutes. He could totally go dance around on stage for an hour. It would be so good. Josh Ham says, it's me. I'm the pleb. I'm totally fine with being lower in the hierarchy. The peasant pill is delicious. I got to give it to Josh. He's been a big influence on this reality becoming really clear to me. He embodies it perfectly. He's like, I've got my domain that I need to focus on. I got my family. I got my job. I got my my immediate community. I've got my farm that I've got to take care of. I'm trying to build generational wealth. I can only control the things that I can control. So I'm not going to get torqued out of anything else, torqued out of shape about anything else. And if some elites come along and they want to offer me some patronage, they want to pander to me, they want to speak my language to me. I'm like a parched man in a desert. I haven't had any elite representation for my entire life. In fact, they've all been a bunch of degenerate satanic scumbags who are dedicated to obliterating everything that I love and stomping on me and spitting on me. And now I have some people who aren't just like making offhanded passes to me, sort of, oh yeah, hey, here's a little thing, but like speaking directly at me, engaging with my memes, speaking with affection of the country that I used to think I lived in, casting bright visions of great futures. that we could all collectively build together for, inspiring human spirit and vitality and creativity. Of course, I'm going to happily accept this patronage. Of course, I'm going to sing their praises. There's nothing remotely wrong with recognizing your position within the hierarchy and accepting it and encouraging others to do the same thing. Because it's this precise, like, instinctive reaction toward just revolution. Purity spiraling. This is what defines shitlibbery and its destructive, corrosive effect on societal ties that bind. So if you're an angry, pessimistic doomer who also claims to care about total fertility rate and racial cohesiveness and economic sustainability for your communities, but you're not capable of embodying, of like recognizing something as fundamental as your position in the hierarchy and the responsibilities that imposes upon you. You don't get to occupy a place in the hierarchy where your voice is heard. You weighing in, you don't have the right to weigh in. You don't have a right to speak about this stuff. You don't have a right to doom and just lash out and screech at every single person who ever tries to throw you a bone because they didn't do it right. They didn't give you the right bone. They gave you the wrong brand. You give me a milk bone. I like the greenies. They threw you a fucking milk bone, man. Nobody else was. You're chained up in the corner like scratching your own asshole, covered in boils. You give me a milk bone and I wanted a greenie. Taking the peasant pill is a very freeing, rewarding experience. Speaking of these elites pandering to us, we touched on this briefly a couple days ago, but you can see the transition here: Apple, Google, Microsoft, Samsung, Facebook, and X with the gun emoji. X had this gun emoji up until 2017. In 2018, they changed it to the squirt gun, and now they just changed it back to another handgun. What's up, Karl Marx's boils?
Yeah, funny story about the boils you were just talking about. Apparently, Karl Marx never ever bathed or washed himself, and his whole body was covered in boils.
That sounds about right.
Communists are just disgusting, disordered people.
Yeah. So spiritually, that spiritual state of the communist, that's what I imagine. That's what's like being like splashed on me like battery acid every single time I hear a black pillar talk. It's like, dude, you're just a spiritual communist. Nobody wants you around. Black pilling is now illegal per DC Woodworking. Okay, so the gun emoji. Now, it's funny that this is even a story, but I don't see how it's not. X has changed the gun emoji back to a normal gun emoji, and Elon said nerfing of the gun emoji matches rise of the woke mind virus, as a core tenet is equating fake harm with real harm. He has got a talent for succinctness. It's funny that this would even be something, meaningful, but I think it's meaningful. Well, think about what went into doing this. At the very least, Elon's sitting up at night and he's like, you know what? I want a real gun emoji. I'm tired of this gay squirt gun. And he called up some engineers and was like, hey, change it. And I would imagine, what I really want to know, what I really would love to know was there a committee discussion on this? Like, were there people sitting around a table, powerful, wealthy executives debating whether, like, what sort of emoji it should be? What sort of gun emoji? Whether there should be a real gun emoji, and then, like, what its characteristics should be, what it looks like. I really hope that happened. I mean, it would be cool to know that Elon could just be like, hey, engineers, make a gun emoji. And they would go make a gun emoji, because that's pretty cool too. But I really, really want to know that in 2024, there was in the current state of the world, they were having a board meeting about whether or not to change the gun emoji. Okay, so a couple clips on Gavin Newscum here. He is starting to say the quiet part out loud. And I wonder, I got to say, Z-Man had a very good episode that he dropped. I think it was over the weekend within the last few days. Z-Blog Power Hour podcast. He just talked about laid out the current state of the election, just going through like state by state, seeing what the polls are, and then kind of evaluating the different political variables in each state. And one thing that he kept emphasizing is Michigan and Pennsylvania are going to be very, very interesting, because both governors of Michigan and Pennsylvania have been heavily in the conversation for president. And he suggested that there's the possibility that if you're Josh Shapiro or Gretchen Whitmer, he called her Karen Whitmer, and I don't know if it was because he didn't know her name or if she's just a Karen. It genuinely could have been either one. But if you're one of those two and you want your name in the hat for 2028, you probably don't want Kamala to win. Because if she wins now, then you're going to have to, it's going to be much harder to run against her in 2028. Because she's going to have the entire party apparatus behind her. You're going to have to come up with some reason why she has to be unseated. That runs the risk of creating turmoil within the party, and you really want to come together and not have all this factional infighting. You know, they have a pretty strong incentive for Trump to win. So to what extent do they choose to or not to participate in election fortification efforts? It's an interesting variable. It could be that they don't even have, they don't get to make that call. I don't know, but it's definitely an interesting variable that's on the table. Similarly, Gavin Newsom has been starting to do and say some very interesting things lately. All of a sudden, he's gotten real hard on the homeless issue, and he's kind of coming out and just saying stuff that I would imagine that plenty of people in his party wouldn't want him to say. Here's a good example. So he's on this podcast with these guys. Look at the imagery that they're trying to cast here. The regime has moved fully to, if you look at all of the aesthetics that they're trying to present, like Tim Walz, you know, the portly white dude who's a kind of a rural guy, and he's just kind of a loudmouth, and like all the different things that they're doing, they're trying to pander
wearing
to the Americana
Carhartt
aesthetic. Yeah. Camo hat,
flannel trucker jacket.
Right.
Yeah.
All of that is all they're trying to speak the uber communist shit lib rhetoric, but present the like working class Americana aesthetic.
You know, the thing about Gavin Newsom that I find rather interesting is there's that saying, Newscum, scrotum. There's that. There's that new that saying that we've talked about before. I was hoping that was going to happen. I waited. I knew you were taking a sip.
I got coffee in my nose. That doesn't feel good.
There's that saying about like, you don't something about like you end up with the face you deserve, or however that goes. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Interestingly enough, Gavin, like you think of someone like Victoria Nuland, who started out a very pretty girl and is just a total hag. Now, Gavin Newsom's like the opposite, where he, despite being clearly a lizard person, he seems to, as he gets older, look more and more handsome. I don't know what that is. Maybe it's an adrenochrome. I don't know. What do you think?
That's I never really thought about that.
If you look at pictures of him when he was young, he looks like a doofus. But he's kind of aging into his, I don't know, fox snake-like face.
Yeah, he has a very kind of regal presentation. and he's
a sharp guy too.
Yes,
like I don't know that he's actually smart, but he's a good talker. He's a smooth talker.
He's very charismatic.
Yes, yeah.
He's got. I know from people who know him personally that at least in college, and I'm sure still today, he was a massive cokehead, just like a total cokehead and pussy hound. That was his. He was just a degenerate frat boy essentially in college. Big
Brent
big
Taylor
partier.
says he could easily be cast as literally Lucifer in a TV show on the CW. Yeah, he would.
That's
he
true.
Would totally
yeah.
nail it. I bet. Yeah, he would nail it.
Very much. He's interesting because he's one that I could see. I could totally see him at some point just completely pivoting on a dime and becoming like a Reagan type character.
Pull up a picture of him when he was young. Look how goofy he looks.
Young Gavin Newscum.
Taylor Brown. Yeah, he could be. He's got some Patrick Bateman vibes.
Totally. Here, look at this. Big time Patrick Bateman vibes.
Oh, he's even more handsome when he was young than I thought he was. I've seen that picture there to the if you go back. No, I don't know. Yeah, that one. I've seen that one. He always looked goofy in that one to me.
Yeah.
Maybe it's the way he does his hair.
Yeah, even here he looks kind of. He looks a little, but that's also I think this is kind of he looks very good for the 90s. 90. Yeah. It looks kind of funny now, but this was very very stylish in the 90s. There he looks kind of a little greasy, a little pimply faced kind of.
Handsome guy.
Yeah, he's got the really sharp nose. He's got great head of hair. Very angular features.
Mm-hmm.
I think he's a complete political opportunist.
Oh yeah.
I think he has zero commitment to anything. It's whoever's going to pay him the most. So it's interesting seeing him kind of starting to go off the reservation here. I've got 2 clips from him. This is the first one.
You got to pull it up.
Sorry. I just realized that. This one here.
It's an intangible. It's different.
How are you feeling about the Switch?
I mean, the Switch. Now we went through a very open process, and a very inclusive process. It was bottom up. I don't know if you know that. Yes, that's what I've been told to say.
Yes, it was.
That's what I've been told to say.
Interesting.
It was a blitz primary, I believe is what they called it.
It's a very, very fast blitz. Yes. I think it was a blink primary, so we call that.
A 30-minute convention. Between a tweet and another tweet.
It's amazing how it happened.
Yeah, it's been amazing. But what is amazing is
look at all these handsome white guys sitting here and
next
laughing like good old boys.
They're totally trying to they're totally trying to appeal to the Republican aesthetic. That's everything. Every single thing that they're doing aesthetically is really trying to pander to that. Listen to what he says here right at the very end. So he makes all of these kind of jokes. He's like, yo, he had like a 30-second primary, 30 seconds from the sending of one tweet to the sending of the next one. And so he's obviously not happy with it. There was definitely, I do have to make this admission. I was wrong. I thought that there was going to be a challenger ticket that showed up at the DNC, and there wasn't, which makes me think, that if there had been a challenger ticket, I would have thought that the Democrats were more serious about trying to win this election. The fact that there wasn't, and seeing someone like Newsom starting to go off the reservation a little bit here, where he's saying openly, talking about there being corruption within the party, and that I've been told to say this, and I need to just toe the party line for right now. And he's obviously dissatisfied. He's a guy who never speaks out of turn. He always just goes out there and just mouths whatever words he's told to mouth. Now he's starting to get a little feisty. And what happened with Josh Shapiro is kind of interesting as well. He wasn't invited to the convention. He hasn't been, he'd be like an up-and-coming star, but he wasn't chosen for VP, even though it really seemed like he was going to be. And then there seems to be some distance between him and the campaign. Gretchen Whitmer still seems like she's close with the campaign, but she's also kind of doing her own thing. So it's been very obvious that there's some real factional infighting going on in the DNC, and I think it's getting worse. Here's another clip from him, a similar sort of admission. I'll play the clip and then show you Don the Pleb's comment.
How did California get so much homelessness?
I mean, because of our own policies and neglect. We put up our feet and we rested on our laurels.
How did
another one that's very now I know again from personal people that Gavin Newsom is deeply I should say maybe there's strong rumors that Gavin Newsom is deeply embedded within the homeless industrial complex in California, especially LA. LA is the homeless thing in LA is big business. I had when I was living there working with Jason, we had one guy that we talked to, we did an interview with, that exposed us to the network of people who are trying to actually solve the homeless problem and running up against major industry and big money. That was like people were getting shot at, that were trying to he had a thing where he was going to create tiny homes and he could build like a really dense little neighborhood of tiny homes and was a really sincere, just decent guy who actually felt bad and wanted to solve the problem. He'd been homeless before, he'd gotten clean and wanted to go out and actually solve the homeless problem. And he realized that it was one of the most protected industries in Southern California. There was millions and millions of dollars that were being generated through it, and his life was threatened because he was trying to actually provide homes for the homeless. So he's always towed the party line on this issue in the past. It's always been about how, the big business and, we Republicans and we blah, 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 blah. Now he's saying the reason there's a lot of homeless right after he's turned on a dime and has been actually showing himself out, cleaning up, and he's sending he's having a clean the streets initiative starting. This is again him departing from the party line. So it'll be very interesting to see how things progress with Gavin Newsom and the Democrat governors at large. Here's another excuse me. I've got coffee in my sinuses. So here's CNBC talking to Elizabeth Warren about price controls.
You gotta pull it up again, dude.
Oh my God.
What is going on with you today?
I don't know. Okay.
Now, it's just the way it is. And to think that the government can decide when prices are too high or too low, the grocery chains have a 2% profit margin. How about Apple with 50% or 40%? How do you decide? This is not the government's place to do these things. It's a fool's errand. And it also is you're using it to divert the real cause of inflation over the last 4 years, which was because you had demand after the pandemic, which obviously, there was a lot because we reopened, and all of a sudden there's supply chain issues, and the demand is juiced by all the stimulus from the IRA and all the other spending that we did.
There have been many causes for inflation. We all understand that. That's why I started my answer in talking about this. But one of the causes of prices going up is that there are companies that have market dominance that have said, oh, this is a moment when everyone is talking about...
Okay, give me another. Name another one. Give me an instance. If you give me an instance.
Finish my argument here?
Okay, go ahead.
This is... the longhouse is getting spanked.
Yeah, that is one of the talking points. Everyone just, price gouging. These big companies price gouging. And, maybe... there are some who are I don't know. I haven't seen any price gouging. Have you?
No, not really. I mean, it's like it's a justification for instituting price controls. I've seen a lot of data on the food industry that they're extremely low margin. They're like 1 to 2%. So that there is really no gouging to be had there. If it's 1 to 2%, then
right,
now, if they started getting up,
I'm not sure what I'm supposed to be looking for to determine whether or not there's gouging. I would assume you would see a market difference between the price yesterday and the price today, and you'd be like, "Hey, what's that about?"
Right.
I have seen steady increase in prices, but that seems to me to be across the board, not just the the billionaires and the trillionaires and the gazillionaires or whatever Bernie Sanders always says.
When I was listening to that Z-Man episode, he mentioned that I believe this was over the term of Biden's presidency, Biden's presidency, prices have gone up the total price inflation was like 21%, and wages have gone up 17%. So you're getting higher prices and wages aren't tracking with it. So the prices are higher doubly so. Which is something that I think this is their angle at trying to solve the problem of inflation. They're saying, well, inflation is bad. This isn't something you can critique us for. It's not our fault that inflation is really high. It's because of these companies that project their prices way up. They're price gouging you. And meanwhile, the companies aren't at all.
Yeah, there's always some bullshit, like they have their parlor tricks of like, oh, this is how we're gonna solve the problem. We're not gonna change any of the things that we're doing that are actually causing the problem. We're just gonna try to staple this thing on.
Yeah, right.
I was just recently looking there's apparently something that was passed in the Michigan Supreme Court. I haven't looked too deeply into this, so I'm kind of talking out my ass. But it was something to the effect of they were going to ban that being the Democrats. We're going to ban like tips.
Mm-hmm. Oh,
they were going to increase the wages for like servers and caddies or whatever. They're going to increase it to the federal minimum wage, ostensibly to like, hey, you should be getting paid fair, whatever. And it's just going to it's going to put probably, I don't know, 25% of restaurants out of business.
Mm-hmm. It was
now their labor is literally doubled in cost, and the waitresses who are still working are now making less.
And the other part of it was that they were going to be adding some insane new number of IRS employees to go after people. So go after those unpaid tips, or those not unpaid but untaxed tips.
As if the people getting untaxed tips or people getting paid under the table is that's what's causing the debt.
Right.
That's what's causing the problem.
Yeah.
Me paying the kid to mow my lawn or whatever.
Right. Yeah, that kid got that
Cash.
$20 and the rest of the economy rattled.
Yeah.
So this guy here is pretty entertaining. You'll pick up on his bit pretty quick. Apparently he did something similar at the RNC and went in as kind of like a hick lib or something like that. And I haven't seen that video, but Elon posted this video. I'm going to speed it up just a little bit here because we still got all the RFK stuff to go through. But you'll see his bit. It's pretty clever, and he gets some very interesting admissions.
Would you rather have democracy or access to abortions?
Either or. I feel like that's a very tough question to answer. I feel like that's almost not possible to answer. I feel like I couldn't pick one or the other.
Even if you had to choose?
I had to choose.
Can we get a final answer? I know it's hard.
I guess access to abortions.
It's Brad Summer. The queen of the Brads has arrived. Yes, queen.
Do not come.
Are you as hard as I am right now? She's something special. Can we please, this year, it'd be so Brad, have a higher tax rate for rich white men?
Well, if we have a Democratic Congress, we certainly will.
Yeah, baby. Tax those rich old whiteys. Come on. Are you worried Donald Trump's going to weaponize the justice system if he gets in power?
I'm concerned about Project 2025. And it's important that individuals understand that Project 2025 basically consolidates power in the hands of one dangerous man.
Yeah.
And so it's really critically
important. Prosecuting his political enemies.
Exactly.
Guys, I have to say, you are even more beautiful in person.
Oh, I love him. I love you. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Give me your best pickup line.
My best pickup line. I'll pay.
Who are the cuties in the Democratic Party that are speaking?
Oh, I don't know. Talk to anyone who lives in D.C. It's hard to find a cute Democrat.
Oh my God, shots fired.
No, that's the tea. Ask anyone who lives in D.C. and who works in Democratic politics. It's hard to find the cute ones.
The Republican guys are hotter?
Yeah, but they're evil. So I don't know.
We kind of love evil. Oh my God.
I feel like
you are so bad. It's time to call it the red card.
That there was
interesting.
Very interesting. Yes. Hot and evil. That's basically catnip for women.
Or maybe, people are pretty, but maybe it's because they're not evil.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Maybe that's why they're better looking.
Yeah, I'd say that the tides are definitely turning. Well, I've got some more stuff related to that here in just a little bit, but we'll continue with this guy.
I'd rather have abortion than democracy.
Right.
Jesus, man.
Yeah. I mean, you know, if we can make a few little modifications to that, like the blue states are going to go do whatever the blue states are going to do, and if they'll sacrifice, if they'll give up democracy, I will happily make that trade, because that's a trade that's very easy to I don't know, to tear up the contract shortly thereafter.
Yeah, I mean, if democracy isn't a thing anymore, then you don't have to be beholden to whatever the trade deal was.
Exactly, right. Let's make that trade.
So conservatives have like literally no cool famous people. What do you eat after a long day at Congress? Did you get your vasectomy yet?
No.
Oh, it's gonna be a wild weekend, baby. Tim Walz has the best shot in Congress. Who has the best back shots? One final game. Yes queen or no queen? Okay.
I'll give you a yes or no. How about that?
Okay.
Amazing.
Can you do yes queen or no queen? Or?
I can't do that.
Oh, really? Free abortions.
Yes, queen.
Free gender affirming care for migrants.
Yes, queen.
Child tax credits for dogs.
Yes, queen.
Ban standardized testing.
Yes, queen.
Oh, yeah, like my ADD is so crazy. Get rid of those things, please.
Yes, queen. Yeah.
Amazing. Different tax rate for white men.
Yes, queen.
Amen, sister. Love you. Love her energy. She's a yes queener. My girlfriend needs to get an abortion. Could you help me cover it up? Please? I need help. I need to do it like discreet way. Oh. Asshole. Romeo, wherefore out there, Romeo?
Sorry.
Romeo, wherefore out there, Romeo? Who do you think has a bigger lightsaber? Donald Trump or Joe Biden?
I mean, come on. Really?
And what's the best way a guy could approach you?
Approach me, I guess, with a microphone and a seersucker suit, a microphone, and my daughter.
Could I be a good stepdad? So some Gen Z doubters of Kamala have noted her record persecuting people for weed. I'm a stoner. I use it for PTSD. Do you think that era is so over? She's so over that?
I think that even in the period of the Biden-Harris administration, they have been working very hard in order to say no.
What about like coke and stuff?
Excuse me?
What about like coke?
And her, I would have to look at it, but
decriminalize the drugs, baby.
Thank you, sir.
Coke for the boy.
Thank you.
Another old white guy, am I right? Is Kamala so us?
She's so us because she's brat. Kamala is brat.
She is so brat. What does brat mean?
Brat is like you're like a party girl, but like you go out at really late at night and like you fall asleep with all your makeup on. And
I mean, I have to love Kamala being in a menage a trois at one point.
Brat Summer.
Get the best Kamala laugh ever.
Oh my God, she has the best laugh.
Joy. We love joy. We're all about joy.
Go
Okay,
Kamala.
how do we guarantee equity of joy?
Equity of joy will flow forth from Kamala. It's just a given in part of her.
Oh, we are manifesting. People say vibes don't matter, but we are manifesting our nation.
It to you. We love you.
We have a woman of color, and we also have Tim Walz. What a great example for the body positive community. What do you think Tim Walz can be as an inspiration for body positive people?
A young man came to him and said, we want to have a gay club here at high school. And he said, I want to lead that because I need to be
He's like a gay leader.
Oh my God. I don't like that is a unique skill to be able to go out in public like that. I wouldn't be able to do I wouldn't be able to keep a straight face. The way he could just completely commit to the bit is impressive as hell. All right. You guys may have heard RFK Jr. has dropped out and endorsed Trump. Of course, it happens right at the end of the week, so days go by. It's a big story, so I have to talk about it. Whoops. Wrong window. It's a big story, so I have to talk about it. But it's like old news by now. We've gone through how many 24-minute news cycles since then? But I got a bunch of clips here from the some of RFK's comments, some people talking about it. We're going to listen to some Jimmy Dore, and then we'll talk about the elite defection. So died suddenly on Twitter. This was the documentary that was done about the things you're not allowed to talk about on YouTube. And the guy who did this, who produced this, actually, his name is I think it's Nicholas. His last name is Stumphauser. He's a big Peter on Twitter. He's the guy who created the documentary. He says RFK Jr. says he has formed a unity party with President Trump, who he will support and work with initiatives inside the Trump campaign which address ending the forever wars, ending the childhood disease epidemic, securing the border, protecting freedom of speech, unraveling corporate capture of regulatory agencies, stopping intelligence agencies from propagandizing, censoring, surveilling Americans, and barring them from interfering in U.S. elections. RFK is, Of course, when I start talking about RFK, my throat won't chill out. RFK, the throat goat. RFK is not ending his campaign, nor is he outright endorsing President Trump. What he is doing is removing his name from the ballot in 10 battleground states. I haven't heard a lot of people talking about this fact here. He's taking his name off the ballot in the battleground states. He'll no longer be actively campaigning for president himself, and he'll not be soliciting more donations. He did say he'd be open to a contingent election if neither President Trump nor Kamala Harris achieved 270 electoral votes. So I got a couple of clips from here of his speech. This is a speech that he gave just before he actually went out on stage with Trump.
In a series of long, intense discussions, I was surprised to discover that we are aligned on many key issues. In those meetings, he suggested that we join forces as a unity party.
I don't think I've ever listened to more than like 5 seconds of him talking.
Uh-huh.
There's no way that guy ever becomes president.
Right.
Just off of voice alone.
Right. You could have paid me a $50,000 campaign consulting fee, and I could have told you, don't even bother running with your voice like that. And it's better now. I watched a video the other day of what it used to sound like before he got the surgery, and it was better. It's better now than it was then. That's how bad it is. How bad
What's
it
up
was.
with his throat? What's his issue?
He has something called spasmodic dysphonia. So it's like it's like he doesn't have complete control over his vocal cords. They like spaz out and slam together periodically.
Huh. Okay. That's not as cool as I was hoping. I was hoping he would like chain smoked for 30 years or something.
Oh no. It's just he got sick.
We talked about Abraham Lincoln's team of rivals. That arrangement would allow us to disagree publicly and privately and fiercely, if need be, on issues over which we differ, while working together on the existential issues upon which we are in concordance. I was a ferocious critic of many of the policies during his first administration, and there are still issues and approaches upon which we continue to have very serious differences. We are aligned with each other on other key issues like ending the forever wars, ending the childhood disease epidemics, securing the border, protecting freedom of speech, unraveling the corporate capture of our regulatory agencies, getting the U.S. intelligence agencies out of the business of propagandizing and censoring and surveilling Americans and interfering with our elections.
So, like, the things where they've chosen to join forces and align on, they're like all of the single most important issues in the political on the political spectrum today. All of the most fundamental issues that have a direct relationship to all of us. If all they got was a couple of these issues resolved because of their unity ticket, then mission accomplished. Most successful presidency in my lifetime by far. Here real quick is the video I watched of his voice before and after. So this is him as a young guy.
At every major institution in Alabama, because of the political structure down there, and really a politics that really involved George Wallace politics, that really involved a stance of defiance. He was really forced to go in.
So here,
he just looks so much like a Kennedy. So this was after the spasmodic dysphonia, before he had a surgery from it.
The Supreme Court decision, people should understand this, was effectively an exoneration of Michael because the court overturned it because it was a credible witness. There's actually 5 eyewitnesses that put him 11 miles away at the time the murder was committed, so he could not have committed the crime.
Before we go,
I don't even know how, like, if something like that happened to my voice, I wouldn't be doing interviews. It would just be, I'm just going to be a private person for the rest of my life. I can't imagine having a and then being like, I'm going to go do a thing that involves me to give lots of public speeches. How do you how do those thoughts happen in the same head? I mean, cool, good for him, but it's you would think something like that happening would just eliminate the possibility of him doing anything in public speaking. So this is when it was announced, when Trump announced their partnership, and he walked out on stage with them. Listen to the pop from the crowd with this.
But he's highly respected. He is a great person. I've known him for so long. For the past 16 months, Robert F. Kennedy Jr.
How do you think?
Whoa!
How do you think Dave Grohl feels about them using that song?
Oh, he was super pissed.
Was he?
Oh yeah, yeah. They released an official statement saying that they were that they didn't give him permission to use that song. Meanwhile,
that's not how licenses work, dude.
Right? They purchased the license to use it. Yeah. Taylor Brown says, "Wonderful time to remind you all that the Foo Fighters are gayer than AIDS." That's one of the things that I have to feel carry shame for, that my home state produced the Foo Fighters.
You don't like the Foo Fighters?
I like them, but they're gayer than AIDS, so.
Yeah. I'm not a big fan. Like they got a couple good ones, but I'm not a big fan of the grunge stuff. I know that's your neck of the woods.
Yep. Oh yeah.
Can't do it.
That song is probably, I mean, obviously is that the most famous song? It's the one I've always identified them with.
Everlong is probably more famous.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. That's the one that I've heard. My Hero is the one I've heard the most. That is the one I've always identified with. I had a couple of mixtapes back in the day, CDs that I put a bunch of songs on, and that was on it. So it's easily the one that I've heard the most. It is interesting. Toddman67 says Trump didn't mog him on the handshake. I didn't even notice that. Let's go back and look and see here. Yeah, there's a little pull in there. He pulled him in. He goes to put his hands in his pockets, and he's like, wait, no, can't do that.
Man, whoa! And he deserves it. He deserves it.
Okay, so there's that one, and then here's the behind the scenes view. This one's also pretty cool. The aesthetics, all of Trump's his rallies, the RNC, all of the aesthetics of the campaign and his rallies and everything, they've been absolutely bang on. I want to know what Trump said to him there. Like, what do you say to someone you're coming out on the stage? Is he saying like, Like, hey, I'm going to do such and such, and then you do such and such, or something like that. Are they coordinating something?
What if he called them he just called them a faggot or something like that?
Yeah, he's like, I've won. Now you'll bend the knee, faggot. And RFK's like, yeah. So then here's some.
That's why he was going to put his hands in his pockets.
Yeah, he's got a little dick shame. He's got to cover up.
Got to make the trousers a little fuller.
Yeah, right.
Soon after I can't even believe I have to say this, nearly assassinated in Pennsylvania last month, Bobby called me to express his best wishes. He knows firsthand the risks incurred by leaders who stand up to the corrupt political establishment. When you stand up, you bring on some trouble for yourself, but you have to do what's right. You have to do what's right for the country. I will tell you, we are both in this to do what's right for the country. That's one thing I can tell you. He lost his father and uncle in service to our country, and Bobby himself was subject to repeated threats to his safety during the course of his campaign while being denied protection by the Harris-Biden administration. And this is a tribute in honor of Bobby. I am announcing tonight that upon my election, I will establish a new independent presidential commission on assassination attempts. And they will be tasked with releasing all of the remaining documents pertaining to the assassination of President John F. Kennedy.
That's pretty big news.
CIA's got a lot of documents to burn.
Right. Yeah. Delete. This is Cable in the chat says what Trump said to him in his ear was, "You're mine now, Junior." I want to highlight something that Josh Ham said here. He said, "I wish right-wingers would learn the lesson Trump has on display here. Trump is magnanimous in victory, giving RFK props for joining him." There was another instance of this recently where the basically it's like the DeSantoid Spurgs were spazzing out about Trump going after Brian Kemp. First, so Trump goes after Brian Kemp, the governor of Georgia, who backstabbed him in 2020, who also incidentally, it's hard to blame Brian Kemp too much for backstabbing him because in December, when all the stuff was starting to happen and they were talking about doing vote audits and that sort of thing, Brian Kemp at first was kind of resistant to Trump, and then he conceded to Trump on something, and like that day or the next day, his daughter's boyfriend's car exploded when he got into it. This didn't really hit the news, and then very quickly, Brian Kemp pivoted back away from Trump again. So it's pretty obvious what happened there. Well, in this case, several weeks ago, Trump was lambasting Kemp for being spineless or something along those lines. And all the DeSantis guys were like, "Oh, the hugely popular governor of a swing state, and Trump just doesn't even know how to campaign, and he's low energy, and he's stupid and gay." And then
the DeSantis guys are so gay, dude.
Yeah. And then Kemp bent the knee, kissed the ring, and Trump turned around and publicly congratulated him and gave accolades to him, and then they're like, "Oh, see, first he insults him and then he's nice to him and he just can't make up his mind." No, this is how this fucking shit works, man. When the guy's against you, you degrade him and you belittle him, and when he bends the knee, then you're magnanimous and gracious and you reward him for bending the knee. This is how power works. We actually have a guy who knows how to do it. Now, lots of people are talking about the impact that RFK endorsing Trump is going to have. There's many debates about it. Of course, immediately the regime press goes hard in the paint on all the RFK smear stories. They post a picture of him looking. I've got it later on. We'll see it here later on. But him as a boy with like the long hair, looking like a heartthrob, and said that he like did coke in college or something like that.
Oh no!
Right? Yeah. Oh, this is. You mean he was a sexy bad boy in college? Oh no.
You mean he was a Kennedy?
Right? Yeah. Exactly. And like his base is white women. The white women, the moms, the crunchy moms, the Instagram moms, they love RFK. They absolutely adore him. Getting that demographic, good.
I heard that he cut a whale's head off with a chainsaw or something like that.
Mm-hmm. I've got that story coming too.
Oh, do you?
Yeah.
Is that true?
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
He is such a wild dude. He's had a wild life. But Jimmy Dore's response to this is very interesting. So I got the video of it here. Let me speed it up just a wee bit. I like Jimmy Dore. What do you think of him?
Yeah, I don't mind him. I don't know that much about him. I tried listening to him most recently on Joe Rogan, and they were talking about Carl Jung, and he was doing a terrible job of presenting Carl Jung, and I thought it just kind of grated me. So that's when I turned it off. But it's like I have a really low threshold for being annoyed, so it's nothing against him. It's more my problem. He just said one thing that annoyed me, and now he's dead to me forever. So that's about how I feel about Jimmy Dore. So maybe here's an opportunity for him to redeem himself in my eyes.
Well, maybe it's funny. I've basically never listened to him. I don't know if I've ever listened to an entire interview with him, but whenever I've seen little clips and stuff of him, I've always gotten the sense that he's a sincere guy. He's authentic.
Yeah,
he's honest.
He does strike me as like one of the few shit libs who's has some integrity.
Yeah. He's like an old school lib. Very, very Gen X old school lib. Josiah says RFK gets it. Existential threats require alliances with those we have vehement disagreements with. It's still a necessity. You can live to disagree tomorrow or go down swinging at your only possible allies. Exactly. So here is Jimmy Dore recognizing that he may have some new allies.
So then he introduces Bobby, lets Bobby give a speech. He gives like a 4 or 5 minute speech. And I want you to listen to this. And I want you to, it's remarkable for several reasons. One, that the Republicans are cheering for it. Now, Glenn Greenwald talked about this a year or two ago about the difference between Trump Republicans and establishment Republicans. There is a difference. And so watch this. Now, Bobby made his bones as an environmental lawyer. They're cheering an environmentalist. That's what's happening at a Republican presidential campaign event.
Thank you. A few hours after the assassination of Ted Butler, I got a call from a safe food advocate named Kelly Means, who's been fighting for many years to try to end the corruption at CDC and FDA and USDA.
So he's talking about taking on the regulatory agencies and fighting big corporations. And they're cheering it at a Republican presidential rally. Let that sink in, how it has flipped and how immediately Donald Trump is miles to the left of Kamala Harris.
I wonder, like, this is another impression I've gotten of Jimmy Dore when he talks. Like, I wonder if he's ever actually talked to a Republican.
Yeah.
Or a right-winger. Like, does he have, like, is he under the impression that right-wingers or Republicans, like, hate the environment and hate regulatory agencies and hate the environment, like regulatory agencies, like big pharma? Like, does he believe that that's what, like, that's our thing?
So in the same way that the like establishment Republicans still want to debate and litigate all of the issues from like 2005 or something, he's like the lib version of that, where he came of age in the era where it was like cool and punk rock to be liberal against the like stuffy like Dare mom Republicans, moral majority types. Yeah. So then, and they were the moral majority and they were all pro-war. No. Yeah. And big corporations, and he's, the environmentalist and the Occupy Wall Street. Like, he still lives in that world. which is interesting because I think he stands for a lot of disaffected libs who live in that world still. We complain a lot about all the right-wingers who don't update their political software, but he's like a lib who hasn't updated his political software. But as it's like you can watch him taking on an update in real time throughout the rest of this clip, where he's suddenly realizing, oh, hold on a second. There's a whole lot more people who value these things than I thought, and they're willing to engage in a political alliance with me.
He is far to the left. Like I said before, when he announced he's going to get the taxes off tipped wages, I go, he's immediately already to the left of Kamala Harris. He's already. And then Kamala Harris, then she copied his proposal because it was so popular. Even though a year earlier, she cast a tie-breaking vote to make sure you could go after tipped wages. So this is enormous. This is really kind of groundbreaking, what's happening.
And these institutions, these regulatory agencies are actually run by the big food processing companies, the big ag and the chemical companies that they're supposed to regulate.
And they're booing big corporations that run our food production and chemical companies. He's got Republicans. I know I'm repeating myself, but he's got Republicans at a Republican presidential rally cheering and booing big corporations, cheering him to regulate them and clean them up and get the corruption out of them, and booing these big corporations. That is amazing.
He said to me that he'd been advising me for many years on my campaign, and he told me that night that he was also advising President Trump. And he asked if I would talk to President Trump. And I said, of course. And about a few minutes later, I got a call from the president. And we talked. We had a very good talk. And then he invited me to come see him the next day. And I went to Minneapolis and saw him. We met again a couple of weeks later in Florida. And we talked not about the things that separate us because we don't agree on everything, but on the values. And we talked. We had a very good talk advising President Trump. And he asked if I would talk to President Trump. He told me that night that he was also advising President Trump for many years and on my campaign. And he told me that night that he was also advising President Trump. And he asked if I would talk to President Trump. And I said, of course. And about a few minutes later, I got a call from the president. And we talked. We had a very good talk. And then he invited me to come see him the next day. And I went to
So that must have been the phone conversation that was leaked on the day that Vance was announced. There was a leaked conversation between Trump and RFK where they were discussing something, and it seemed like they'd come to some type of an agreement on something, and I was wondering about that.
You know, I will say, just as an aside, to Jimmy Dore's credit, when he was talking on Joe Rogan about like Carl Jung and stuff like that, it was within the context of him having a spiritual awakening and kind of opening up instead of being like one of those atheist types. He's kind of opening up to the idea of God and stuff, and he's kind of in the neo-Gnostic Jungian matrix right now, but I guess that's a step in the right direction.
Yeah, Javier Oliva says, if you let people like Dore into your movement, they will move it left. He'll make MAGA more liberal and more gay, accept his support, but reject his lefty ideas. Yeah, I agree with the last sentence there. Yes, if you let people like Dore into the movement, they will move the movement left. It will also move them right. And the alternative is if you're going to create a movement that does not allow people like Jimmy Dore into the movement, then the alternative is that the movement dies. So the movement either moves left or it dies. Those are the options. This is why there is no like permanent political solution. There is no just like elect the right person or create the right structure of government and then just set it up to run like it's some sort of perpetual motion machine. You're always going to be battling these forces.
Taylor Brown says, rumor has it that Trump wanted to pick RFK for his VP. I've heard that as well, but he said on Theo Vaughn's show that was not the case.
Yeah, and I mean, he could have lied. He probably, if it was true, he probably wouldn't have said so. And I think the timing of it was such that it would have seemed right. And I could see, it seems that the pick was going to be Marco Rubio, and then Trump has this call with RFK that morning, and they talked for a few hours. And I don't buy that talking for a few hours was, this is the day after it was an assassination attempt. He's announcing his VP. I can't imagine he's going to be like, all right, let me just go talk to this other guy for 3 hours.
I heard, I don't know if this is true, but I heard that he got a call after the assassination attempt from Tucker. Saying you gotta get JD Vance or they're gonna kill you.
Yes, Peter Thiel also called him, and so did David Sachs and Elon Musk. Those are the four that I know for sure who called Trump and said, "You need JD Vance for assassination insurance." Now, I think RFK would probably be assassination insurance, but not as good as JD Vance.
We again a couple of weeks later in Florida, and we talked not about the things that separate us because we don't agree on everything, but on the values and the issues that bind us together. And one of the issues that he talked about was having safe food and ending the chronic disease epidemic. Our children are now the unhealthiest, sickest children in the world. Don't you want healthy children? And don't you want the chemicals out of our food? And don't you want the regulatory agencies to be free from corporate corruption? And that's what President Trump told me that he wanted. He also told me that he wanted to end the grip of the neocons on U.S. foreign policy.
That is amazing. The end of the grip of neocons on our foreign. Guess who else is?
He told me he wants to see the end of the grip of neocons on U.S. foreign policy. That's the fact that so either they had that conversation and Trump said it in those words, or RFK understood him to mean that, because I think RFK is probably a little more politically sophisticated in terms of where Trump is just kind of a natural. He just wings it and he knows lots of people and talks to lots of people, whereas as RFK is more of a political brain. In either case, Trump is happy for him to stand there and say that in public.
Is this an official declaration of war against the neocons?
I would say it amounts to basically that, yeah.
Yeah, maybe the Republicans will finally, like the Republican voters will finally start changing their mind on some things.
One of the most prominent and influential Trump proxies is going on stage at a Trump rally and saying Trump wants to declare war on the neocons.
Guess who's a neocon? Joe Biden. Guess who else is a neocon? Kamala Harris. Guess who else? Everybody who runs the Democratic Party. They're neocons. They're the party of George Bush and Dick Cheney now. And this is why CNN cut away when he started saying, this is when they cut away? No, they don't want this message. Okay, here we go.
He said he didn't want any more $200 billion wars in Ukraine, that we could use that money back here in the United States.
He's now anti-war. So now Trump becomes anti-war. He sounds like, first of all, right now, that sounds like what we say on this show. That's what I say at all my live events. You know, lefties we just want to end the wars, invest that money back here, and have healthcare that doesn't bankrupt us. And he's going to clean up the food supply. He's going to get everybody healthy. Here we go. The crowd is cheering.
And the best way to build a safe America is to rebuild our industrial base and rebuild the middle class in this country. And don't you want a president who's going to get us out of the wars and who's going to rebuild the middle class in this country?
This is unbelievable.
And he told me that he wanted to end the censorship because the whole basis of American democracy is the free flow of information. And we know that a government...
He's pro-free speech, anti-censorship. Now he's the peace candidate. And he wants to go after big agribusiness and the regulatory agencies and fight to clean up our food supply from big corporations and chemical corporations. This is what the Democrats should be saying. Because first of all, it's popular. Second of all, it's the right thing to do. This is what people have been done. This is populism. And CNN doesn't want to show you that. The Democrats don't want to show you that. And now Trump and Bobby Kennedy are miles to the left of Kamala Harris. If this message gets out, which it will, I'm bringing it to you right here on this show, they will crush Kamala Harris. Crush her. All the fake, phony, empty...
That in Jimmy Dore's mind, left equals good.
Yes, correct. Yes. Thank you for saying that, because I watched this clip and I was like, okay, I want to talk about this and I want to figure out how to unpack this, and that was exactly it. Jimmy Dore has a
brainworm.
Yeah, he still operates on like the political compass of 2005. He's stuck in that world, which I think that means that this here, there's been 8 months or 8 years rather, that he could have picked up on any of this, and he didn't. But now it clicked. Finally, this just made it click. So how many other people are out there like that, who have spent the last 8 years with brainworms, and then it clicks? Something happens that makes it click, and they're like, oh, look at this thing standing right in front of me. Yeah, it's been there the whole damn time. You could have seen it at any point, but the brainworms were so deeply infested. So it's ironic that a dude with a brainworm is actually the one that helped Jimmy Dore start to eradicate his own.
Maybe he took some ivermectin.
Yeah. Careful now.
Enthusiasm that I saw at the Democratic convention this week for Kamala Harris, which is just fake. It's just based on she has a vagina and she's black. That's all it is. That's all it is. And people are projecting things onto her. You talk to anybody in that Democratic convention hall, nobody has a clue about policy, and they don't care.
Yeah, because no one cares about policy. Dude.
Right. I was my policy. So RFK, here's a quote here in his press conference. RFK said that he had offered to work with Kamala Harris in her bid for the White House. Democrats shrugged off his announcement. Quote, Donald Trump isn't earning an endorsement that's going to help build support. He's inheriting the baggage of a failed fringe candidate. Good riddance. DNC senior advisor Mary Beth Cahill said in a statement. Holy crap.
Cope.
Massive cope. And they're just spitting on the man. The embodiment of the Kennedy legacy. And the Democrat Party calls him a failed fringe candidate and says good riddance. Taylor Brown says, so it took RFK to make it click for Dore. How many countless people will now arrive at the same conclusion? Right. So another here is RFK now talking to...
I remember Brett Weinstein, whatever. He was a big RFK guy. I wonder what he's been thinking the past few days.
He said he just tweeted the other day that you can't. What did he say? Something about how you can't microdose on red pills.
Oh.
Let me see if I can find it here real quick. Oh my goodness, there's so many things happening.
Nothing ever happens.
Yeah, right. He said he's all but said that he's going to be voting for Trump. And where is this frickin'... He said you can't microdose the red pill. Make your peace with it and then down the hatch. And it was funny. There was a response to it. Ian Carroll, Cancel Cloco, this guy here, guy that does all the TikToks of the weird conspiracies and stuff. He's in our YouTube chat right now. It's a different guy.
Oh, okay.
I think that is funny though. I think that's Kyle's brother in the YouTube chat.
Oh,
that would be funny.
Like the gay retard Kyle from Ohio.
Yeah, that one. We have a few of them around.
His much more handsome, less retarded brother.
Yeah. So this guy here is he does a little bit of tribe posting from time to time. And he said, except the market is flooded with cut versions of the pill that are mostly filler that aren't the real thing. You got to make sure you go to the source and get the good stuff. And Brett Weinstein replied with the dart emoji. I don't know if he knew exactly what he was agreeing with here.
Did you know I one time shared a bed with retard gay Kyle from Ohio?
Yeah. Yeah, it was a momentous occasion.
Yeah.
Hopefully it can happen again.
His feet smell like a dead body. What's up with that? Kyle, what's your problem?
Just airing him out. If he'd have aired his feet out, you wouldn't have had to air him out on the stream.
Well, he read. It was funny because we were all going to Ohio to meet up, and he was like, "We were just gonna get hotel rooms, our own rooms," and he got an Airbnb because he wanted his own Airbnb, and then we all decided just like, "Oh, I guess we're going to an Airbnb," without consulting him. So we all show up at the Airbnb, and we're just crashing his. Yeah, it was a whole thing.
Crashed his reservation and
probably ruined his Airbnb review thing.
Yelling and screaming in the middle of the night.
One of us was doing that. Yeah. You know which one was. He was yelling and screaming the second he walked in. He was taking within 5 minutes of showing up, he was drinking whiskey and yelling.
Did you say that he was spinning around on a bar stool, waving his hat in the air and yelling "Patriots in control"?
Yeah, at a speakeasy.
If you guys are members of the King Pill Discord, then you might know who we're talking about. You should go to kingpill.com and go join so you too can participate in the lore. All right, so Dr. Phil is going to be interviewing interviewed RFK, and he's also going to be interviewing Trump this week, which again, supposedly Trump is running this low energy campaign. I'm waiting to see the low energy campaign.
You crafted a trail in your press conference. You're staying on the ballot in the red and blue states. In the swing states, people have said that this could come down to 15 counties in 11 different states, 11 of those counties in 7 states, including where we are right now, that you said you don't want to be on the ballots there. You don't want people to vote for you there. Do you think you can be the determining factor in this presidential election because of the positioning? Of course, if they don't get to 270, if they tie at 269, whole different ballgame. But if this comes down to independents in those 15 counties in those 11 states, and you've given your support to the Trump candidacy, do you feel like you may very well be the one that selects the next president of the United States by your influence?
Well, that's possible, but I would have, if I had stayed on the ballot in the swing states. And what I've done, Phil, is we're taking my name off the ballots in 10 states that are swing states. We're leaving my name on in the red states and the blue states, so people can vote for me without consequence. You know, they're not going to be scared. Oh, the bad guy's going to get elected. You know who's going to get elected in those states. So it allows people to vote for me who want to vote for me without any consequence. But well, we recognize from our polling is that if I stayed in the race, it would have almost certainly swung the race to Vice President Harris, who was trying to throw me off the ballot in all the states, ironically. But I thought that would not be a good outcome for, you know.
It's an interesting point there that he was essentially running as a spoiler candidate to Trump. And I mean, people have been able to see this coming for a long time. You could see that he would be a spoiler candidate to Trump and that he would inevitably give in and endorse Trump. Like it was no way it wasn't going to happen this way. But the DNC is so incompetent now.
Incompetent. I was just about to say.
The dude is running as a spoiler candidate and they're trying to keep him off the ballot. That's a spoiler candidate in your favor. And you're trying to keep him off the ballot. These people are profoundly retarded.
Because I differ with her on all the issues, on the issues of war, on the issues of censorship, on the issues of chronic disease, and many, many other issues. I did not want to give the election. I didn't think it would be right to give the election to her. And our polling from the beginning showed pretty consistently that if I got out of the race, 57% of the people who were supporting me would vote for Trump. And so me staying in the race would have swung the race, very likely could have swung the race to Harris. And so just getting out of the race, I think, makes it a fair race between them. And then
well, you're double digits in some of these swing states.
Yeah, I am.
And if 57% of those people go to former President Trump, that's a real boost to him. That's a real boon to him.
It is. I think our decision, or my decision about what to do, I think it's much more likely that President Trump will get elected.
So you do acknowledge that?
Yes.
And you have enough that you agree with him on priority-wise that you're more comfortable with that than if it went the other way, even though you've grown up.
Even though I grew up in the Democratic Party, and I had the same kind of orientation towards abhorrence for, I'd say, President Trump as many Democrats, maybe 4 years ago, mainly because of his environmental stances, which I continue to disagree with. But my conversations with President Trump were very amiable, and he talked about starting a unity party, about President Lincoln and his team of rivals. And I could come in and support him because of these existential issues, censorship, war, chronic disease, that I feel strongly about, he feels strongly about, and that Kamala is on the wrong side. That I could continue to criticize him on issues where I don't agree with him, and he was very comfortable with that, and I like that too. I don't, I'm not going to co-sign a lot of the things he says and endorses. But on those issues and on the border, I'm with him.
Are you going to actively campaign for President Trump?
Yes, I will.
Okay, so I may be sitting here talking to the one person in this country that is going to pick the next president of the United States by what you did
possible. That is possible.
It certainly is. I agreed to have.
This is how you run a third-party candidate, by the way. This is exactly, he has run a masterclass in a third-party candidacy. And it's fascinating seeing him be fully aware of this, recognizes the power that he holds. And it's interesting, too, that you can be, there's a position that is, I don't know, a rival to the actual president of the United States in terms of power. It's being the guy who can determine who the president of the United States is going to be. So RFK has a lot of power in this capacity, and he recognizes it, and he's willing to use it, even though he's been an environmental lawyer. This has been his primary motivating factor for almost his entire life. And he says, this is one of the fundamental things we disagree on. But I recognize all the areas we do agree on, and these are all fundamental existential issues. So I'm going to use my power in the best way that I can, even though I'm not going to get everything that I want. And I'm going to extract a concession that, yeah, I'm free to still disagree with you publicly and publicly criticize you. But also, I recognize this patronage relationship we formed, so I'm going to campaign for you. I'm going to kiss your ring, and I'm going to campaign for you, even though you know where I stand on this stuff. This is some statesman shit.
It makes Trump look good that he's willing to have somebody who disagrees with him publicly. Campaigning with him.
Right. That he's done that so many times, and now probably the most significant political endorsement he's ever gotten. is reestablishing that pattern. And this talking to Dr. Phil. So they're going right at the type of audience that might be inclined, the Jimmy Dores, basically, of the world.
Have you in the car in 45 minutes? We're at 44 right now.
All right, got some more RFK stuff. So here's some of the numbers. Trump's campaign tweeted it out. Trump campaign memo on what RFK Jr.'s exit and endorsement means. With the exit of RFK Jr. from the race and his endorsement of President Trump, there will undoubtedly be a great deal of speculation of what it means and who it will help. I've seen the Harris folks already trying to spin that it won't impact the race. Well, the data speaks for itself. The table below is from our most recent round of battleground state surveys. As you can clearly see, in every single state, RFK Jr.'s vote breaks for President Trump. Kennedy vote share by state and how they vote in a head-to-head ballot. So in Arizona, he's polling at 5%, Georgia 3%, Michigan 4%, North Carolina 3%, Nevada 4%, Pennsylvania 4%, Wisconsin 4%. And the net of Trump versus Harris is 25% in Arizona, 13% in Georgia, 2% in Michigan, 36% in North Carolina, 50% in Nevada, 13% in Pennsylvania, 30% in Wisconsin. To put these numbers into perspective, the net vote gained in a state like Arizona based on just a 2020 turnout model would be over 41,000 votes, nearly 4 times Biden's winning margin. Or in Georgia, the net gain would be over 19,000 votes, nearly twice Biden's margin. So when you hear or see the Harris team and or Democrats try and spin otherwise, now that the data clearly paints a different picture, this is good news for President Trump and his campaign, plain and simple. Again, I'm going to give a shout out to Z-Man. Go listen to his episode on the Z-Blog Power Hour on all the podcatchers. It's about an hour long, and he goes through each of the states, all the swing states one by one. He includes a couple others, New Hampshire and Michigan, and just detail. They're not really swing states per se. Minnesota is another one, but he details how they're a little more complicated. He talks about the Democrat governors who have aspirations for 2028. And really, the situation is pretty dire. Trump just has to win a couple of the swing states, given all the other states that he's already essentially secured. He just has to win like one or two of the swing states. I think if he gets like Arizona and Nevada, then he wins. So this means Kamala, who already doesn't want to campaign, she's a day drunk. She's not going to campaign well. She's not going to be someone who's going to be hitting the streets just going crazy. She's got to cover all these different states. She's got to protect from potential backstabbers within her own party. And then they also have to coordinate the whole election fortification thing as public sentiment is turning more and more against them. In any, barring an election fortification, this is like the widest divergence I've ever seen between presidential tickets in terms of popularity and electability.
It seems to me that the fortification is getting less and less likely to pull off.
Right. I think that they're still going to try. And I think that's going to, I think, because there's a lot of people, especially the rank and file, who don't know any better. They're true believers. They just think this is part of being a patriotic American and supporting our elections and yada, yada, yada. But the drumbeat has just been steady for weeks, months now. Colin Rosh says, with Youngkin moving VA to paper ballots, it could be in play. Yeah, that was one of the things that Z-Man talked about, is Virginia potentially being in play. Particularly, so Youngkin was my prediction at the last minute. I predicted Youngkin was going to be the VP. I couldn't hope enough that it was going to be Vance. So I decided to cover my base, made another wrong prediction, predicted it would be Youngkin. But he has really turned up the rural vote in Virginia. Obviously, you've got the deep, perpetually blue corner of Virginia that's always going to be that way. But then the rural vote has really turned out lately, especially over the transing kids and bathroom debate in schools and all that sort of thing. And they announced that they're going to paper ballots in Virginia. And Youngkin himself is going to have some aspirations for 2028. At the very least, if he could pull Virginia red as the governor there, he would establish his legacy very much within the Republican Party, and he'd be pulling in a lot of movers and shakers who want to give him money. So I think Virginia is probably in play.
Question.
Yes.
You're more online than I am, so maybe you have an answer. Has Trump said anything publicly yet about the stabbies, the jabbies, the jubies?
I don't think he has.
'Cause RFK has, hasn't he?
Mm-hmm. And oh yeah, RFK has been.
Maybe he'll use RFK to do that.
I think that may be what it is. Yeah, this is like so now Trump is able to pull in RFK to campaign on the health issues. I'm sure he's going to wind up. He's going to have this independent commission with for the presidential assassinations. I'll bet you he also winds up being in like FDA or something or EPA. And it may be that may have been the concession that Trump made was that I will make you the head of the EPA. So we disagree on the environmental issues. You give me your endorsement and I'm going to give you the platform to be able to go on all the health issues. And then I'm going to make you the head of the EPA.
And making a presidential assassination commission or whatever, ostensibly to release the documents for the JFK assassination is a really, I think, smart and maybe interesting way to have people looking into what happened to you.
Yes.
Speaking on behalf of Trump.
Right. And who better to do that than a Kennedy? Like, he's going to have a very strong personal investment in that. Yeah. So that means his name is going to be on the line with that sort of a commission. So obviously he can be sidelined. He could, imagine a Kennedy who endorses Trump gets this independent commission into assassinations, and then he gets knocked off. Imagine that for a story. But yeah, you see, so putting him in charge of, or at least directly involved in that commission, at least increases the possibilities that it won't be just a total clown show. So then here, okay, I really wish I'd done this tweet the other day. I saw Trump on Theo Vaughn, and I was like, man, he's hitting all these podcasts. This is how he's reaching out to young white men. Like he's going on all the young white men's shows. And I wanted to put a list together of other shows that he needs to go on between now and the election as he makes his roll through his way through the podcast circuit. And the Sean Ryan show was top of the list for me. And then like a day later, Sean Ryan announces that he's going to be on the show. It dropped this morning. I haven't watched it yet. I'm going to do it as soon as the show's over. Which reminds me, 6 p.m. Eastern, 2-Bit Podcast. Jason and Pete and I are going to be doing a recap of Thiel on Rogan. We're doing a redux of Peter Thiel, Friend or Fed. So make sure you guys turn up for that tonight. So here's a clip. I haven't watched this yet. I just threw this in here when I saw it. Here is Trump talking to Sean Ryan.
You're not sharing it again.
Did it again.
That Elon Musk said that he would accept a position in your cabinet. Would that have to do with artificial intelligence?
So
if
Elon
you chose
and
him?
I have a great relationship. He's great. He is a totally unusual character. Do you know Elon at all?
I don't.
He's great. And he's smart. And we have to cherish our geniuses. We don't have too many of them, right? But he is a brilliant guy. And what he really would like to do is get involved in cutting some of the fat. And he does know how to do it. And he loves the country. It's just an amazing thing. We had a conversation the other day. You would know better than me, but I hear it had hundreds of millions of people. I heard it had the biggest audience that there's ever been. I mean, would you say that's a correct statement?
I would absolutely say
There's
that's
never been
correct.
anything even close. I heard 750 million people. I mean, numbers that are crazy. And he wants to be involved. Now, look, he's running big businesses and all that, so he can't really, I don't think he'd be for cabinet. I'd put him in the cabinet, absolutely, but I don't know how he could do that with all the things he's got going. But he can sort of, as the expression goes, consult with the country and give you some very good ideas. Like on AI, there's nobody knows more about it than Elon.
Mm-hmm.
It's a big thing. And he said it's very important. I mean, it's very important for the country. If we don't do it, China's going to do it, or somebody else, but most likely China. And China is working right now to develop a massive flood of electricity. And we don't, because we have people that they're not even thinking about that.
Yeah.
And we have to win this election. This election November 5th will be the most important day, in my opinion, in the history of our country. Because if our country goes the wrong way with this election, I think this country is doomed.
I want to highlight a comment here. Where did it go? Oh, yeah. Mellon. One of Trump's major weaknesses with the right was Operation WS. I think probably can't say that on YouTube, but RFK patches this up nicely. Yes. Right. I mean, how many times now have we seen all the Doomersburgs freak out because Trump isn't addressing a thing, or he isn't doing a certain thing, or he's not saying a certain thing or whatever, and then give it a little bit of time, and he actually does the thing. He actually says the thing. And he does it in a clever way. Like bringing on RFK to resolve this issue. Gets you way more than him going out and saying, oh, that was a mistake and I never should have done that and blah, 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 blah. Incidentally, I don't think that was a thing that he could have prevented from happening. Obviously, he's the president. He's not a god on earth. And also, I saw someone point this out and I was like, that's actually a pretty good point. If you look at this in a more, I don't know, realpolitik sort of a way, pushing this warp thing through was actually part of the justification for being able to roll back the lockdowns and oppose the lockdowns. So it's kind of like once the cat's out of the bag, you don't get your ideal outcome. You don't get your like perfect no harm outcome. You're choosing from better of two bad options. So one option was lockdowns and pokey things, and the other option is no lockdowns and pokey things. Now, of course, I don't think he was necessarily thinking in these terms, because he proceeded to spend the next couple of years championing how great they are and everything. And I understand if you didn't necessarily have the same perspective on the pokey things as some of us, why you might think it was great, because in terms of innovation and being able to fast track a project like that as a government program, it was efficiently accomplished because they didn't have to deal with a lot of resistance. But yeah, he is incidentally this is something that he's been on the record for a long time, talking about the relationship between pokies and spurginess, shall we say. So
RFK?
No, Trump.
Oh, interesting.
Oh, yeah. He said, he has a famous tweet about it where he says something. Let me see if I can pull it up real quick. Yeah, he says, I wonder if I can read this. I want to see the whole thing before I probably can't read this out loud. But this is a tweet from March of 2014. Healthy young child goes to doctor, gets pumped with massive blah, 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 doesn't feel good and changes. Blah, blah, blah. Many such cases. That's where many such cases came from, was from this tweet.
I thought it came from BAP. Okay.
Yeah, it was BAP. I think BAP was the one who picked up on it from this. This is 10 years ago, 10 and a half years ago. Trump was tweeting about this. So you don't have to twist his arm very hard to make the case if you're RFK. All right, so another thing that RFK said, at a leading report, says, breaking, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. says former President Trump is going to be adding more Democrats to his campaign. Aristophanes said, people are going to countersignal this, but getting the RFK/Tulsi tier moderates to cross the picket line is important in order to other the prog wing the Dems are committed to. Vocal moderate support normalizes the right while isolates the progs as weird. And again, like, the doomers they don't understand how political campaigning works. Campaigning and governing are two different things. Grading someone's campaigning is different than grading their governing. To campaign in the current climate, this is what's necessary to build a broad coalition to overwhelm any sort of fortification effort. If you don't like it, you're just expressing the fact that you don't like the fact that the system sucks. Yes, we understand the system sucks. Sitting around and shitting into your own hand and throwing it against the wall, about the system sucking doesn't do anything for anyone. We understand the system sucks. We have to operate within the constraints of the system. Within the constraints of the system, building a broad base of consent gives you the mandate to actually do some of the dramatic things that you want. So if you want Trump to do really dramatic things, the only way that he could ever get to where that could even be a question to debate whether or not he could do them depends upon the mandate that he gets. Not just winning, but winning overwhelmingly, winning in a landslide. If that's possible, this is the way that you make it happen. And that is a necessary pretext for even having a conversation about, do we deport 50 million or 500,000? We can have that debate later on. First, he has to win. This is just the reality of the system. This is I feel like we shouldn't have to explain this, which makes me think that the people who complain about this are just bad faith actors. I don't want to insult them so much as to say they're just completely retarded. It's easy. It's less condemning to them to just say that they're bad faith actors. Don't listen to them. Here's some more RFK now talking about the sort of corruption that he wants to go after.
Is it fair to say that you would try to dismantle some of those organizations?
No, I wouldn't dismantle them. I would change the focus, and I would end the corruption. Right now, 75% of FDA's budget is coming from pharmaceutical companies. That is a perverse incentive. In NIH, scientists and officials in NIH who work on drug development, who incubate drugs for the pharmaceutical company, get to collect lifetime royalties from those products. These are regulators. They're supposed to be looking for problems in those products. We have these agencies that have become sock puppets for the industries they're supposed to regulate. So they're not really interested in public health. Everybody, the most profitable thing today in America is a sick child. Everybody's making money. The hospitals are making money. The pharmaceutical companies are making money. Even the insurance companies make money. And we need to end those perverse incentives. We need to get the corruption out of FDA, out of NIH, out of CDC, and make them function as they're supposed to function, which is to protect public health and particularly children's health.
Josh Hamm makes a really good point. He says black pillars will doom post instead of doing a bare amount of thinking. The Overton window is currently shifting from Biden-Romney as the frame all the way over to Trump-RFK. This is winning. Man, imagine that. Imagine if the Overton window, the left side of it was RFK.
Right.
That'd be okay. That
Right.
wouldn't be too bad.
Yes. The leftists on the direction that we're heading is where the leftmost end of the mainstream is RFK, Jimmy Dore, Brett Weinstein. I'll take that world. That's a vast improvement over where we are today. Let's look at something that was just a matter of time. It was not big news necessarily. Yet it is big news. This just happened.
And today I'm honored to officially welcome another true American patriot, a 17-year veteran of the Hawaii Army National Guard, a 4-term Democrat congresswoman, very, very popular, the former vice chair of the National Democratic Party and a 2020 Democrat candidate for the United States presidency. You know, she was a very good candidate. Every time she ran, she was good. She did well. She decided to leave. She couldn't take it anymore, but she is very special. And I didn't know this, but she was a lieutenant colonel. That's not bad. Lieutenant colonel. Not bad. I didn't know that. You know, I just found out. I said, put it down. You got to put that down. That's bigger. That's better than all the other stuff I read. But no, she's a special person. She's got great common sense, great spirit. She loves our country, and she loves the people in this room. Tulsi Gabbard. Tulsi, please.
Come on, cameraman. It's gun mommy. This was just a matter of time. It was very obvious that this was going to happen, but it's the timing is very interesting. Right after RFK, so RFK gives her a little cover, so she doesn't have to be the primary focus of all the fire. But now it just adds to this. Has completely sucked all the energy out of the room from the DNC. They saved this until the DNC, and then he announces RFK and Tulsi back to back. Just completely yanked the Overton window right back to him again. It's almost like these people know what they're doing. The big quote from that RFK clip I just played.
Lady.
Yeah, the little like little streak of silver.
You think that's real?
No. Yeah, it's definitely dyed. It's a good touch. I like it.
It's like she's like the female version of Jack Murphy with his silver beard.
Oh, that made my mind go places it shouldn't have. I got to go to confession. RFK Jr. said the most profitable thing in America is a sick child. That is messaging right there. That is a powerful line. Keep using that line. Blast that one all over the place. Let's see here. There's two. J-Song said RFK as Secretary of Health and Human Services has control over FDA, CDC, and NIH. That's where he could do the work he cares about most, health issues. I'd be perfectly happy with that. That would be fantastic. Kate said RFK is the vengeful son. You've killed my father. Prepare to die in Minecraft. And then Javier says make Tulsi head of ATF and make her close the agency, establish dominance. Yes, I'm down with that. I've been figuring she's probably going to wind up in the State Department. My prediction was like Assistant Secretary of State. I don't know if they would necessarily make her an actual head of an agency, but if they think she's ready for that, then by all means. Josh says that quip about being an LTC is funny. Don't get me wrong, but it shows how Trump understands us plebs. That job is real to the normies. All the political stuff is fake and gay. Yes.
Got the A-team forming.
No kidding. Taylor says Trump back on Twitter. RFK and Tulsi endorse Trump. All the iconic photos over him of the last year. How can you not believe we will win? Black pillars get the wall when we win. Oh, that reminds me of I'll pull this up real quick. I made a meme. I'm joining all the dark MAGA memeing. Pull this up.
How many of the doomers do you think won? Like, supposing Trump wins, how many of the doomers do you think are just going to turn, on their heel and be like, "Oh yeah, I knew this was going to happen the whole time"?
They're either going to do that or they're gonna go full like Richard Spencer. And
oh yeah.
Just straight up become pro-Democrat. I mean, you're seeing some of this already where they're talking about how awesome Kamala is, how great her energy is, and all that. Black pillars get the curb. I made a meme. Look at me. Black pillars get the curb or the wall. That's your choice. Which one do you want? Okay.
I think I'd prefer the wall.
I probably would too. That I watched that clip once and I don't need to watch it again. I've had enough dental trauma for the last
yeah, no kidding.
Last couple weeks. David Gornowski, go ahead.
I was gonna you want to hear a funny story?
Yeah.
Somebody stole my card information and tried to go to Balenciaga and buy a $3,000 bag.
Seriously?
Yeah. They did not get the $3,000 bag, but they did go partying that night and spent like $300 at the bar.
Oh my God. Oh man, did you get it back yet?
Yeah, we're all good.
Oh, good. That's funny. We're gonna steal a card from a Michigan trucker and go to Balenciaga.
Well, it was over. It's a joint account. It wasn't my card. I think it was my wife's. She was over in Grand Rapids. This all happened over in Grand Rapids, where all the charges were, and she was over in Grand Rapids a few weeks ago. So she probably just, I don't know, paid at a pump or something like that, and they got it. But yeah, I thought that was funny. They had a good night.
No kidding. How am I not following David Gornowski? How does this keep happening?
Screwed Up Rebellion. I don't know, but I'm guessing probably.
What did he say? Were they playing? Probably.
That's my guess.
Okay, so I am following him. I just went to his account and it says I'm following him. I don't know why it shows up as me not. So Carnivore Aurelia says RFK is speaking out publicly against seed oils for being government subsidized garbage. We've officially won.
Right here with seed oils. We're hearing a lot about seed oils. Why should people be worried about these kind of products?
Seed oils are one of the most unhealthy ingredients that we have in foods. And seed oils, the reason they're in the foods is because they're heavily subsidized. They're very, very cheap, but they are associated with all kinds of very, very serious illnesses, including body-wide inflammation.
Right.
Which affects all of our health. It's one of the worst things you can eat, and it's almost impossible to avoid. If you eat any processed food, you're going to be eating seed oil.
Right, and it's interesting the government subsidizes it. Why would the government want to subsidize something that's going to make people sick, and then in the end, we all end up paying for that in terms of healthcare costs, which are skyrocketing?
Yeah, because that is a direct result of corruption. About 75% of FDA's budget comes from regulated industry, and that means food processors and pharmaceutical industry, all of them profit from a sick population.
You know,
they're talking about the seed oils, dude. That's awesome.
Yes. Big shout out to David Gornosky. He said, in 2018, I was the only person in broadcast news media talking about this nightly. It's now time for the public to revolt.
Yeah, no kidding.
Big shout out to David. He's been on this track for a long time. He's the one who introduced me to Ray Pete. And it's great to see it going mainstream. Big credit to David.
To have, like, if you looked at ingredient labels and there is no more slop, it was just tallow.
Right. Yeah.
Wouldn't that be awesome?
Uh-huh. This is a story that goes really well with the idea of revivifying American manufacturing and American industry.
And just American people.
Right. Yes.
Imagine what happens when people stop eating that shit.
Uh-huh.
Over the course of a couple decades, all the metabolic issues just kind of disappear. Because you go back, just a few decades ago, and before the seed oils were in everything, and it's not like people were eating less calories, and, despite that, everybody's like thin and sexy looking.
If anything, they were eating more calories.
Yeah, if anything.
What was from one of the government agencies in 1939.
Department of Agriculture.
Yeah, Department of Agriculture. In 1939, they did a survey or a study, and this was coastal Americans, West Coast and East Coast. And the average adult American was consuming like 5,000 calories a day. So this wasn't just manual labor. This was the average adult was consuming 5,000 calories
I think
a day.
I think it was upper class.
Okay.
Upper class individuals.
Right. Okay. So that would be even more, like 1939, I think is when it was. So if it was upper class, that's gonna overselect for more. What would you say? More like less physical labor, less physical lifestyles. Andrew
Bankers
Torba
and stuff.
Yeah, bankers, lawyers, executives, that sort of thing.
So they're all eating 5,000 calories a day, and none of them are fat.
Uh-huh.
And they're the people who can afford to be fat.
Ray Pete talked about in the 40s when he was 40s or 50s when he was part of the Forest Service. He said he was just walking through the woods, just planting seedlings. Like it was not physical. There's lots of walking, but that was it. And he said he sat down and he calculated based on the meals that they were eating and snacking throughout the day and everything. He was eating like 9,000 calories a day. So if you imagine take a species, like you're surveying human beings as just like an animal species, and you document that in one period of time they're consuming say 5,000 calories a day, and then you fast forward a period of time and they're eating 2,000 to 2,500 calories a day, or that's what's recommended. You'd be like, these people are going to be comatose. It's like you're like setting these people up to go into hibernation. They're not going to have nearly the vitality or the energy or the productivity or the
But if
mobility.
you slow down their metabolism with seed oils, then, maybe they can function on 2,500 calories a day.
Right.
Not well, but they'll live.
Right. Yeah. They'll just kind of eke out an existence, but they're going to be like very low energy. Kennedy, this is Andrew Torba says, Kennedy banning seed oils in American food will be the most consequential policy initiative of the last century.
Oh, yeah.
No longer will our people be sick and chronically ill. No longer will they be jacked up on a cocktail of big pharma drugs for these diseases. People will be healthy and fit again. This will lead to family creation. This will lead to far more right-wing voters. Half of the problem with liberalism is our miserable, drugged, and diseased people. This single move solves it all.
Yeah, I remember, who was it? I don't think it was Dave Asprey. I don't think it was Mark Sisson. It was one of those guys who were in kind of the alternative health, keto, paleo kind of world. And I remember listening to an interview with them, and they were talking about, might have been Mark Sisson. I'm not sure who it was. One of those guys who, like, it was the paleo dude. Yeah. So he was, he had like his gym and stuff where he did all his training and stuff, and he put people on the paleo diet or whatever. And he said, inevitably, anytime he got a woman as a client, within 3 months of starting them on, paleo or whatever his particular program was, just, not eating slop and seed oils all the time, inevitably they'd get pregnant. He said every single one of his female clients within 3 months was pregnant.
Huh. It's almost like there's a war on fertility. It's time we fight back.
So to Andrew Torba's point, yeah, if people stop eating garbage, there'll be a lot more babies.
We need them. Here you go. Here's your story. RFK Jr.'s daughter, Kick Kennedy. Kick. She recounts the time her dad cut off a dead whale's head with a chainsaw. When he said he had skeletons in his closet, he was not kidding. Stephen Miller says every story that comes out about RFK and animals only makes him sound cooler. Says her dad's career focus is environmental law, and growing up, Kick had all kinds of astonishing encounters with Mother Nature. In a 2012 interview with Town & Country, she recalled an especially colorful childhood event in which her dad, who has a thing for animal skulls and skeletons, took her down to the beach with a chainsaw to retrieve the head of a dead beached whale. They bungee corded the head to the roof of the family minivan for the 5-hour haul back home. Every time we accelerated on the highway, whale juice would pour into the windows of the car, and it was the rankest thing on the planet. We all had plastic bags over our heads with mouth holes cut out, and people on the highway were giving us the finger. But that was just normal day-to-day stuff for us. Someone needs to make a meme of this. Make a Wojak meme of this. With there's like sitting in a van and there's a whale head attached to the top with like whale juice pouring inside, and the whole family is the crying face Wojak, and then he's just got the Chad face. Oh man.
Imagine that. Like you see a beached whale and you're like, we can't go home yet. So you run over to the local hardware store and rent a chainsaw so you can go strap it to the top of your car. Honey, we can't go home yet.
There's a whale. We got to cut his head off.
I need that above my desk. Yeah, it is like a National Lampoon movie.
Yeah, totally. This is like you have a reenactment of this with Chevy Chase playing him.
Yeah.
Of course, we got to get Perry Abbasi's weigh in on a couple of these here. So, RFK Jr. makes history as the first presidential candidate to use the word "ungayed." So, Tim Dillon posted this picture of him with Anna. He says, "Just got married. Homosexuality was a phase." And RFK replied to him and said, "She's a beautiful angel, Tim. Easy to see how she ungayed you." This is a real tweet. He deleted it after this. And then this one here, him with Anna. He says, "Never seen better green lines. RFK Jr. is a certified alpha male." I mean, for a 70-year-old dude, that's a powerful frame.
What is
TRT is a hell of a drug.
The Red Scare chicks. What are they doing?
I mean,
they just seem to be popping up everywhere.
Yeah, they're I think gadfly is the term. They're like professional gadflies.
Yeah.
So the Trump War Room account has been firing off some absolute heaters lately. I want to know who's running that because they know how to speak our language. So you got this picture here. Joe Biden, his account tweeted out this picture of them watching the DNC convention, talking on the phone. He says, Jill and I just spoke to Kamala. We can't wait to watch her accept this historic nomination. Kamala and Tim will inspire a generation and lead us into the future. And this is the Trump campaign response. JD Vance. Watch this video.
President Trump and I have a different message. To all the criminal illegals who flooded across Kamala's wide open southern border, pack your bags because in 6 months you are going home.
Glomar responder on Twitter. This is a good follow. He's had some bangers lately. He said, Vance is you have 6 months posting and you're blackpilling. And then another clip of Vance.
That beard really looks good with the beard.
Yes, he looks much better. He looks much better with a beard than without one.
Yeah, it's nice to have somebody in office or who's going to be in office having facial hair.
Mm-hmm.
When's the last time that happened?
I think it was. I saw someone talking about this. I think it was like
like
Teddy Roosevelt,
15 or something.
I think it was Teddy Roosevelt. The last one who had a beard was like, was it Taft? Did Taft have a beard? Or was it Ulysses S. Grant? It was like, it's basically been, I think, yeah, Teddy did he have a goatee? Or did he have a mustache?
He had the big mustache, didn't he?
Yeah, I'm trying to remember if he had a goatee. I don't think so. I think he just had the big mustache. And then I think you have to go back to the late 1800s to get a guy with a beard, with a full beard.
Yeah, it's good seeing men be men.
Mm-hmm. Mr. Anxiety Flopper says Barron having a field day. Wouldn't it be amazing if we learned that Barron was actually the one running the campaign account? Oh, that would be so good. So a question here, talking about the childless cat lady's comments. Andrew Torbas's masterful response from JD. We've talked before about how he's taking a different tack toward the media. Oh yeah, very weird. Like the most normal, like generic white dude ever. He's taking this tack toward the media where he's very personable to them, but he calls them on their bullshit while being very personable. And this is a great example of that.
All right, let's talk about women voters more broadly. The Census Bureau estimates there are 22 million women between the ages of 20 and 40 who, for whatever reason, do not have children. What do you say to those women who hear some of your comments, including the childless cat lady comments, which you've been asked about, but who feel as though you won't represent them?
Well, I'd say, first of all, I will represent you. I want to be the vice president for the whole country, and I want to represent everybody. And yes, I made a sarcastic comment years ago that I think that a lot of Democrats have willfully misinterpreted. But what I've simply said is that I think that it's really a profound change that's happened in our country where we become anti-family, and I would like to change that. And I think if you talk to young women, whether they have children or don't want to have children, what you consistently hear is that a lot of young women feel like they don't have options. I saw this with my own wife, who's a working mother, who's a very, very accomplished litigator. She has 3 beautiful kids and always felt like she was having to balance being a good mom with being the kind of litigator that she wanted to be. I just want women to have more choices. I've seen that very personally in my own family, and I think it's something that is broken about our country.
Let me zoom out a little bit. Yes. You're calling it a sarcastic comment, sure. And yet some women, and you got the feedback in real time, felt like it was a gut punch to them personally. Do you regret making that comment?
Look, I regret certainly that a lot of people took it the wrong way, and I certainly regret that the DNC and Kamala Harris lied about it.
Do you regret what you said, Senator?
Look, Kristen, I'm going to say things from time to time that people disagree with. I'm a real person. I'm going to make jokes. I'm going to say things sarcastically, and I think that what's important is that we focus on the policy. There are certainly going to be things that I say. If I'm elected vice president, people are going to say, well, I wish he had said that differently. I think it's most important to actually be the person I actually am, and to say those sarcastic comments were made in the service of a real substantive point. This country has become too anti-family. It's too expensive to afford a house. It's too expensive to afford groceries. Donald Trump and I want to change that, and unless we get better leadership, we're not going to.
But again, just very quickly, given that people have told you directly, have spoken out, have said that they were offended, they were hurt by those comments, do you wish you never made those childless cat lady comments?
I think that it's much more important for me to just be a normal human being who sometimes says things that people disagree with. I have a lot of regrets, Kristen, but making a joke 3 years ago is not in the top 10 of the list.
All right, another big topic in this race is immigration.
I mean,
she kept trying.
Yes, and he didn't give her an inch. But he managed to do it in a way that was like, personable is the thing that keeps coming to mind for me. And you could tell in the demeanor that they have toward him, that even when they're being a combative bitch like she is here, they're not combative toward him in the same way that they are toward like Trump. There's actually you could tell they get off the interview and then they just like have a casual conversation and whatever. So he's able to connect with people. It's funny that they went with the weird thing toward him because he's like the very last word I would think of for him is weird. He's incredibly normal. He's almost normal to the point of bland. If anything, I think he's almost kind of just like Just too easygoing, just too kind of relaxed, but it works really well. I think it's good that he's that way. JD is an elf like Yarvin. They can't totally dismiss him. And that's the thing, is that this is him on the outside. He's able to play this character really well. But if you studied him, if you tracked him for long enough, if you take everything that he's said together, it's very obvious that he's an extremely savvy operator. He plays the ho-hum guy pretty well, but there's a big brain behind it. Okay. Powerful Mutual here, Alexander Kislov, says, you're watching key elites defect to the Trump camp in real time. You're going to see more elites doing this at a greatly accelerating rate over the next 2 months. That's how these things work. A few at first, and then it becomes contagious. The Dems are powerful mostly because elites believe that they are powerful. They either get something from them or they're afraid of crossing them. The people who are afraid of crossing them are beginning to lose their fear. That's going to cause a bank run on their power. This is a very great analogy, a bank run on their power. If you're a powerful man and it looks like the Democrats' power to dispense carrots and wield the stick is beginning to wane, and you feel empowered to make an independent choice, are you going to be drawn to the guy who got shot in the head and survived, or a drunken DEI retard? The dominoes keep on falling. The narrative, the megaphone, and the muzzle, hat tip to Michael Anton, are beginning to fail them. They can't silence Musk. They can't silence Tulsi. They can't silence RFK. Many more defections are coming. And then there's a great article here on the fragility of the current regime by Charles Haywood. It's really long, so we're not going to read it, but I strongly recommend you go read it.
That Humpty Dumpty's chin looks like a penis.
Yeah, it does.
Are we witnessing the birth of the new American Republic, Matt?
I believe we are. I think, well...
We're due for one. It's been about 80 years, right?
Uh-huh, yeah.
According to Moldbug's timeline.
Uh-huh. Yep, we had our, you had Washington, then you had Lincoln, then you had FDR, and we're coming around ready for the next one. And this is, I think that this is probably going to be the last iteration of the Republic. I think we're going to get another generation
I don't know about that.
out of it. And then I think it's going to turn into something that is not a republic, some new adaptation.
Maybe.
I don't think it's necessarily going to be a monarchy, but I think it's going to be the Republican little r Republican structure. I think is going to go the way of the dodo. So, last big story that I had here today was the founder of Telegram was arrested. Did you hear about this?
I heard about it. I have not looked into it.
Yeah, so he's the founder of Telegram. He had a stop off in France to refuel. He's a French and Russian dual citizen, and he stopped in France to refuel, and they arrested him there. They say he's complicit in drug trafficking and other serious crimes. They're basically running the Ross Ulbricht playbook on him.
Yep. I was about to say.
And here's the response. This was within the hour of the news breaking. All of the PayPal Mafia guys that I follow and their adjacent circles were, let's say, extremely exercised. Elon tweeted this. He said, founding fathers, here's the First Amendment. Oh, and in case someone tries to take that away, here's the Second Amendment. So he's get a little boomer posting here. He says, the Second Amendment is the only reason long-term that the First Amendment will be upheld. Note that this comes right on the heels of them changing the gun emoji from a squirt gun back to an actual real gun. And then there was the Naval tweet that I mentioned earlier about that the true right to vote is possessing a firearm. Lots of similar rhetoric coming out. He says, POV, it's 2030 in Europe and you're being executed for liking a meme. Vivek said, it's Telegram today. It'll be X tomorrow. David Sachs says, using allied countries to circumvent First Amendment protections is the new rendition. And then there's this article from Gizmodo about the Lords of Silicon Valley are having a moment. I have this one bookmarked to read later on. But you got Palmer Luckey, who's also talking about the... There's a consistent drumbeat happening with these guys, going after the media, going after the regime. They're very, very unhappy with the current state of things. And then, relatedly, here's the one I told you about. This is RFK. He was a cocaine dealer at Harvard University.
Everyone.
Yeah, it's interesting that they sat on this story for how many months until I guarantee you that the Daily Mail didn't just stumble upon this story. They sat on this story as he was running for a while until he endorsed Trump, and then they released the story.
Yeah, as if they care about drugs.
Right. So I said, while low IQ doomers have complained that the PayPal mafia / Silicon Valley technocrats abandoning the regime coalition to back Trump are just disaffected libs who only want to make some tweaks and would never openly go to war with the regime, I've been saying that the regime's response to them will only serve to increasingly radicalize them into fully embracing their crossing the Rubicon posture. The news of Durov's arrest today just accelerated that process even further. As Charles Haywood pointed out recently to Buck Johnson on the Counterflow podcast, the debate over whether or not they are truly our guys is purely academic. They will be forced by the regime to become our guys, as the only alternative will be humiliation, persecution, and personal destruction. This was the article, The New Elites, Trump, and the Future of the Empire. Very good episode if you want to go listen to that. This guy here said, Thiel, Musk, Bezos et al. Are extensions of the military-industrial complex. They're private sector arms of an emerging biodigital security state. Correct. Yes. That's been the contention all along, that these guys are they're basically serving as fronts for what is effectively a coup, a regime change operation directed toward the American regime. Dom Clemente said they forgot what radicalized them. In most cases, it wasn't books they found by chance, but the act of hostility by the regime making their lives worse. So you get a bunch of guys who are like, I read some books and decided I know what's wrong with everything. These stupid guys don't really understand the problem. Meanwhile, these guys are the ones who have actually had shit on the line. They're actually the ones who are if you don't get your preferred outcome, for them, this is genuinely life and death. Elon, my suspicion is that there is going to be an arrest warrant issued for Elon before the election. I think this is the direction that it's heading. You notice that they don't really go after Trump so much anymore. I mean, there's all the token stuff that goes after him, but it's all of his proxies that are getting the heat now. It's Vance who gets the heat. It's RFK who gets the heat. It's Elon who gets the heat. It's David Sachs who gets the heat. They're going after the proxies. And going after Durov here, I think, is a pretext for going after Elon. I think it would be a massive mistake on the behalf of the regime to escalate in that way, because they're just going to continue this process of further radicalizing these guys. Issuing an arrest warrant for Elon would be the absolute death knell of the regime. And then, last thing I got, one other tweet from this, in the space of 10 tweets on my timeline, I saw these. First was Sean Ryan announcing his interview with Donald Trump. Next, Dr. Phil announcing he'll be doing interviews with President Donald Trump and RFK next week on his television network. Next, Georgia Secretary of State Brad Raffensperger says notices will be posted at polling places reminding voters that only U.S. citizens can vote in elections. And RNC and Michigan GOP are suing Detroit over, I can't tell what that other word is. Hiring 7 times more Democratic poll workers than Republican ones in the state primaries election earlier this month in an alleged violation of state law, the RNC said. So I said, speaking of low IQ doomers, I'm old enough to remember when they were littered all over the site whining about Trump is running a low energy campaign. He doesn't really want to win. The RNC is just sitting around collecting donations and letting him fortify the election. Nothing good will ever happen. These are all just from today, adding to the steady drumbeat that has persisted for weeks and weeks, readily perceivable for those who aren't constitutionally incapable of doing anything except complain and whine. Grow a spine, you cowards, lickspittles, and feckless wretches. No fucking blackpilling. If you blackpill, you get the curb. These are the rules. I don't make them, I just enforce them. That's all I got for today. Reminder, 6 p.m. Eastern Time tonight, 2-Bit Podcast. It'll be Pete Quinones, Jason, and myself breaking down Peter Thiel on Rogan. I saw a lot of people who talked about this, the conversation being a nothing burger, and oh man, was it not a nothing burger. It was an everything burger. There was so much in that conversation.
Really? I found it really boring.
No, it was, we got to watch what we're talking about tonight. Because there was, you have to understand how Peter Thiel communicates. And Joe Rogan was a retard. It was terrible. The questions he asked were, keep trying to spin off into talking about pyramids and whatever. It was a terrible interview on Rogan's part. But there was so many signals that were sent by Teal, both just coming on in the first place, and then the things that he chose to talk about, the things that he highlighted, the things that he avoided talking about. He's a fascinating communicator. So after it happened, Jason and I were both spazzing out. We jumped on the voice chat in the King Pill Discord and talked about it for a couple of hours. So we're going to try to bring up some of those same points again. But it should be a really good conversation. I'm trying to find the clip that that Taylor just asked for. Scrolling through my bookmarks. If only they were in order. Let's let it be awkwardly silent for a minute.
Yeah,
there it
I don't
is.
see anything.
And actually, since I've got you here right now, I know that you'll appreciate this. So we're gonna watch 2 other clips, and then we'll finish it with the best clip of all time. So, I think you were the one who introduced me to this guy, or at least you told me about him or something. I've been following him. One of the best follows.
Oh yeah, Jeremy Fragrance.
Jeremy Fragrance is hilarious.
And the last one I don't talk so much about is Perry Ellis 360 Red. I love it, man. It's the dildo of the fragrance industry. And yeah, it's not so funny actually. Still don't know how to talk about the topic of masturbating. It's difficult, man. I do it, but I don't come. And you know, it's like if I can be that honest, but it's simply to boost my power type of vibe. All right, ultimately, of course, I want to have a girlfriend and a wife. Turning that girlfriend into a wife and have great kids. So that's Perry Ellis 360 Red.
That face.
So that's Perry Ellis 360.
What's his deal? Like, how did he wind up the way he is?
He's a perfume enthusiast, and I think he's got his own like line of scent. Is he just like a YouTuber? Yeah, I think it was Instagram or TikTok, one of those places where he really blew up. But yeah, he just reviews perfumes and freaks out. Great shit.
I get the sense that this isn't a character. Like, this is literally just like he's autistic or something. This is
I think so.
Just him being himself. Someone said that not even the most insane thing he's said on camera. I hadn't seen this. I'd seen that other one a whole bunch of times, but this one's even crazier.
This song memorizes for me pain and growth. I had a woman, she tried to sue me for rape. My father died. A guy totally financially destroyed me. I had experience with gay people, and these gay people tried to, they tried to, how do you say that? Force me to do stuff, or otherwise they will tell. Now, I'm not afraid of this whole shit. You see, guys, if you go through the deepest of the deepest, and you survive, then you can fuck life, baby. You can fuck life, and you have a boner. Love it. Power. This.
Oh, he's so much fun to follow.
Yeah.
He calls himself the #1 fragrance icon who follows the teachings of Jesus. I think he's like Polish or something. He posts videos of himself out walking around somewhere in Eastern Europe.
I thought he was German. I don't know, though. He could be Polish. I don't know.
All right, Taylor. Here we go. You guys ready for it?
When they took a shot at my hero, and they tried to kill the next president of the United States, enough was enough. And I said, let Trumpomania run wild, brother. Let Trumpomania rule again. Let Trumpomania make America great again.
you ever think the Hulk Hogan, the Hulkster? Do you think he ever gets tired of being that guy?
I don't
He's like,
know.
I gotta go up here and rip my shirt again.
All right, fine.
He's kind of typecasted himself a bit.
Yeah. I love it. I love it. Thanks for showing up today, guys. Appreciate you. Do me a favor and hit the like button. We got 105 still watching and 71 likes. Smash that like button on your way out is what I'm supposed to say. And then one more time, 2-Bit Podcast tonight, 6 p.m. Eastern. We're going to be talking Peter Thiel on Joe Rogan. We got lots and lots to say. I'd imagine it's going to be a pretty long one. And join the Discord, brother. Kingpill.com. Go sign up. Join us. We'd love to have you. And we'll see you guys tomorrow.